Ladies and gentlemen, we are live for day 2 of the Games for the Waynes game jam that we're doing here. Day 2 of 60. Can you believe it? It's already day 2. Has anyone ever streamed this many days in a row? I don't think so. But we're here, we're doing it. And yeah, today we're going to start writing some code. We're going to start implementing our game mechanics. Let me just shoot this message off on Discord here. Publish that. Let's close that out. All right. Yeah, so we're back. Day 2 of Games for the Waynes game jam. Day 2 of 60. CD Rejdar, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. So today, as I said, we're going to get into the game mechanics. I'm going to give a few minutes here for people to tune in. And as a reminder, so this is a game jam for Games for the Waynes, which is a campaign for the Glasgow Children's Hospital. They raise funds for that, and they're hosting a game jam this summer, which is really cool. But we're going to try and introduce a little bit of a twist into today's stream, where we're going to, I'll explain it in a bit, but we're actually going to incorporate the charity and hopefully raise a little bit of money. Beansel, thank you so much for the follow. Hey, CD Rejar, day 2 of 6 million. I don't know about that, but day 2 of 60 for sure, and we'll see how we get on from there. I did really enjoy the live stream yesterday. As I said, I didn't used to love live streaming, but yeah, yesterday was fun. I enjoyed it. So we'll see if we're going to do more of this, and if people are interested in watching, people are chatting and staying engaged, then we'll probably continue beyond the 60 days. But we'll walk before we can run and see how far we get with this. Beansel, hey, how's it going? How's it going? How are you guys doing? It's a pretty rainy, cold, miserable day here in Scotland, which is very, very rare for Scotland. But yeah, we also have like a thunderstorm warning too, so hopefully there's no issues with that. Hopefully it'll be fine. But yeah, it should be a good one. Cunningham, it's 40 over here. Damn. Yeah, that's too hot. I think what is the temperature in Edinburgh? Actually, I think this is going to show my postal code. 1 second. It is 12 degrees and raining. And yeah, we have a moderate thunderstorm warning. Heavy showers and some thunderstorms are expected. Yeah, very, very rare for sunny Scotland. Thank you for the follow, Scottish Bean. As a fellow Scot, I'm enjoying the break from the heat. Yeah, it is nice. This weekend, I was up in Loch Lomond for a wedding, and it was very warm. It was very nice, but it was very warm, and we were sitting in the sun for a little bit. Yeah, it got pretty toasty. So I don't really mind having a little bit of rain, a little bit of cooler days to recover from that. Are we live on YouTube? I'm not seeing any YouTube messages coming in. It looks like we are live. Just want to make sure. I was making some tweaks to the widget this morning, so if anyone on YouTube can just say hello, and we can just make sure that's coming through. Check France for a laugh. Let's have a look. 31. That's toasty. Extreme high temperature warning. That is very warm. I think I would take... Test. Cool. Thanks, Ilox. Appreciate that. Yeah, it looks like that's coming through. I think I would take the slightly cooler temperature here in Edinburgh over the 31 you have there. Cool. Just before we get going, I wanted to show you guys this. This is a bug report I got this morning. So even after a year of being out, still getting the odd bug report. This one's an ultra widescreen monitor, and I can't believe how wide this screen is. Does anyone have a widescreen monitor? I've never actually used one. I'm wondering like how you actually make use of all of this horizontal space. I feel like I would basically just only be using this center portion here. You do? What resolution do you have, Ilox? I'm not sure what this is, but it's very, very, very wide. The rain is so nice, it's clearing all the muggy air. Agreed. Yeah, I'm enjoying this. I am enjoying this. Hold up a second. I've just messed up my stream deck here. My OBS, I mean. 3440 by 19 something, I think. So it's not like ultra wide. That sounds like that's still kind of like in the realm of a pretty normal display. 3440 by 14. Oh, okay, there we go. That's getting a bit wider. Yeah, but this is so wide. So there's a button missing at the bottom here because of that. And we did have a couple widescreen issues when the game first came out. I thought I fixed all of those, but I guess we missed one. All right, shall we get into some stuff? So, oh, by the way, so I noticed yesterday, this is why I wanted to test the YouTube chat. I noticed yesterday there's a few YouTube chats that didn't show up on the screen. So if you send a message and you don't see it, just feel free to send it again, just to make sure that I actually see it. But yeah, for anyone who missed yesterday's stream, what we're doing is we are making a game jam game. It's going to take place over the course of 60 days, and we're going to only work on it live on stream. The the inspiration for this came from, I'm so zoomed in, came from someone called Taylor Brooker, who creates these incredible embroidery pieces that I've been following on Twitter for a while. And I just love the look of these. I find them very inspiring. And I want to make a game where basically we create these embroidery pieces in an interesting way, and then you're able to kind of transition into that environment and walk around and see it in kind of a fully 3D space. So you can kind of walk through the trees and the fields and all that kind of stuff. So yesterday we started setting up some of the very, very, very basic visuals. Today we're going to start actually creating the embroideries, and we'll see how we get on with that. Lunchtime, sadly, wrong timing for me. Enjoy stream. See you later, maybe. Too bad. Hopefully see you later, but thanks for stopping by at least for the for a few minutes. But yeah, hopefully catch you later. Yeah, so the goal is to start implementing the actual embroidery, and I have an idea for that. But because programming is typically not the most entertaining thing to watch, and because this is all for a charity, I thought we would introduce a little error counter. And the idea is, every time there is an error, so this is a runtime error or a compiler error, we're going to make a note of it. And at the end of the stream, I will donate £2 for every error that we had during the stream. So that puts a little bit of pressure on to make sure that the code's actually working and that we're not going to run into any major issues. But we are implementing something that's a little bit complicated, which is a falling sands simulation. So I'll get into that in a second. But hopefully that adds a little bit of stakes to the stream, and maybe we can raise a little bit of money for charity. So that's the plan, and we'll see how we get on with that. One other bit of housekeeping. So yesterday in the stream, someone suggested wave function collapse. So I did a little bit of homework last night to go through that and see if that might be an algorithm that we might want to look into. And I think the answer is no, it's not. The reason is because I'm just noticing, Dimitri, hey, oh boy. Yeah, your message isn't coming. I don't know why some of the YouTube messages don't come through on the stream here. So if you ever see that and I'm not replying to your message, just feel free to send it again. I do have another view, but I'm not always paying attention to it, so I'll try and keep on top of the YouTube chats. But yeah, the wave function collapse. So the reason that we're not going to use that is wave function collapse doesn't really solve our problem. So what wave function collapse does is it basically would do the initial generation. So it would lay out, it would basically be a great tool for creating an embroidery from scratch, but that's not what we're doing. The player is going to create the embroidery, and then we're going to kind of like basically create a 3D space from that. So we're not really generating this. And so I don't think wave function collapse is the right way to go. But in order to make this interesting, what I want to do is introduce something called the falling sand algorithm. So if you're not familiar with that, falling sand is kind of a genre of game, or like a simulation, where you can have different materials kind of fall throughout the world and then have like interactions between them, and they have different properties and they behave in different ways. So what I'm thinking is if each of our embroidery threads represents a material. So say we have a thread that's for water, and a thread that's for soil, and a thread that's for asphalt, and a thread that's for sand or whatever. Each of those will have different behaviors. They'll kind of come into the world in their own unique ways. And then we can create environments from that. That's the plan. I think it's going to work. I think it should be fun. We'll be able to create something interesting out of that. So the goal for today is to implement the falling sand algorithm. So, just to kind of give a quick overview of how that actually works. I'll hop into GIMP for a second. Hey Slime, how's it going? So, the basics of falling sand, what we're going to implement. If we have a grid, pencil, here we go. Let's make that way smaller. Okay, so if we have a grid and we have a square, and this square is, I'm just going to mark an S for sand. Every frame, what we're going to do is we're going to check if this this particle of sand can move down. So if there's an empty grid below it, then it'll move down into that. If the grid below it is not empty, then it'll check to the side. And if that one's not empty, it'll check to the side. And if that one's not empty, it just basically stays where it is. And through this simulation, we'll be able to create like mounds of sand or soil or whatever. For water, it behaves slightly differently. So it'll check down first, and then it'll check the side, then it'll check the side, like the side diagonals, and then it'll also check side horizontal. And so basically, people have worked out all these kind of like rules for how these different particles should behave depending on the material that it is, and they'll all behave a little bit differently. And we'll be able to create some kind of cool visualizations out of that. And the goal is to hopefully then be able to construct these kind of environments or embroidery pieces from that. That's the goal. I think in theory that this should work, and yeah, we'll find out if I'm right or if I'm wrong. So yeah, for this stream, what we're going to do is every time that there's an error, whether that's a runtime exception or a compile error, we're going to donate £2 to the Games for Wayne's charity, which is the organization that's hosting this game jam. And yeah, it should be a good time. So yeah, feel free to grab a cup of tea and let's get into it. So here's where we left off yesterday. One thing we didn't do that we need to do first and foremost is we need to get this into Git. So let's do that real quick before we lose anything. So I'm just going to create a new repo. Okay. Let's call this embroidery jam. Private, create the repo there. And we need a git ignore. 1 second, I'm just going to steal that from Farewell North. Cool. This is the git ignore that I used for Farewell North. And let's just vi.gitignore. Cool. So we'll give that 1 second. Yeah, just don't want to lose anything when we're only a day into this. Errol Montsevel Erno, hello, how's it going? I'm great, thanks. How are you? Sorry for absolutely butchering your name there, but I am great. How are you? Just give that 1 more second. You actually did one of the best jobs pronouncing my nickname. Oh boy, I'm kind of scared to ask how other people were butchering it then, because I feel like I was pretty far off. Glad to hear you're fine though. All right, this is gonna take a minute. So let's just jump right into some code. I missed yesterday. Is there an idea for the game? If so, are we allowed to know? Yes. So just to be clear, because I think there was some confusion on this yesterday, this is not like my next major game. We're doing a game jam here. So this is a 60-day game jam for Games for the Wains, which is raising money for the Glasgow Children's Hospital. The idea of the game is that we're going to, as a player, you'll be able to kind of create these kind of embroidery pieces that are very much inspired by Taylor Brooker's art on Twitter. She creates these incredible landscape embroideries. And I was very inspired by this. I went out, I bought like an embroidery kit. I learned how to do embroidery. I started prototyping this several months ago, and I was prototyping a whole bunch of different game ideas, and this just didn't end up being the game that I went with. The idea always stuck with me, so for this game jam, I want to return to it. So as a player, what we're going to do today is we're going to implement how you actually create the embroidery. It'll be kind of gamified a little bit. But the idea is that once you've created the embroidery, you'll be able to kind of go into that environment, walk around, have a look around in fully 3D. So you'll be able to kind of transport in and out between the embroidery mode and the actual like exploration walking around. And then depending, how much time that takes, we'll see if we can add some objectives and some story and stuff like that late towards the latter half of the game jam. But to start, we're just going to try and get that working. You're Glaswegian like myself? No, I'm based in Edinburgh. Yeah, I'm in Edinburgh. But Games for the Wains is a really cool organization. I've worked with them before for a Steam event a few years ago. And this summer they're hosting a game jam to raise money for the hospital, which is really, really cool. And just so if you guys don't know, they're raising money for the hospital because they actually have like a kind of gamer in residence in the hospital, and they provide kids with access to video game consoles and video games so they can help pass the time while they're undergoing treatment. And they have like a gamer in residence who actually like helps the kids and plays with them and stuff, so they have a friend to play with. And it's a really, really cool initiative. And so as part of that, we're gonna try and raise some money. So every time I make an error today, I'm gonna donate £2 at the end of the stream for every error. And we'll try and find some ways throughout the course of this 60-day game jam to see if we can raise some money for the charity. You only butchered the middle part. Most people butcher the entire nickname. Okay, so I got 2 out of 3. That's not too bad. All right, so let's get into some of the coding here. Damn, I might have to hit you up at some point. Yeah, if you're ever in Edinburgh. I don't get out to Glasgow too often, but from time to time. Actually, come to think of it, last time I was in Glasgow, I think was for the Games of the Wains event, which was like 2 years ago, so it's been quite a while. All right. Hello. Kulturni? I'm not sure if I can even take a crack at the second half. But Kulturni, hello, how's it going? Let's give that a second to load up. Okay, so falling sands. So like I was showing on my really terrible diagram here, so we're basically creating a grid. That's going to be our kind of embroidery canvas, and each cell of the grid is going to have a different material, or it'll be empty to start. So if it's sand, it's going to, the grid is going to have a certain behavior where it tries to fall down or it tries to fall to the side. If it's water, it tries to fall down to the side or across. And we'll see what other kind of materials we want to add later on. But each particle will have its own behaviors, and it'll create some cool simulations. And I think that'll give us an interesting way to kind of create our embroidery pieces. So first thing we need to do is we need to generate a grid, and we need to have a way to visualize the grid. So we'll start with that. Still waiting on Ryder to wake up here. Actually, you know what? I don't even know if we set up Rider. 1 second. Oh no, it's there. Okay, cool. Alrighty. So we're going to do this. We're gonna do this simulation on the CPU side. So we're gonna do this in burst and jobs. Just a heads up, when you're multi-streaming on Twitch, you're not allowed to show chats from other platforms such as YouTube. Yeah, I know that that's a thing, and I'm just kind of choosing to ignore it. If we get banned on Twitch, then we get banned on Twitch, and we'll just move to YouTube. I just think that's a really silly rule, and I'm not agreeing with it. I'm dealing with UE5 at the moment, trying to get any performance out of it. Kind of jealous using Unity. Yesterday we had a lot of chats about this, and a lot of people talking about looking at Unreal for better performance. People on Unreal looking for Unity for better performance. I think it's just 3D is tough all around, and grass is always greener. But I do love Unity. I've been very happy with it. What are you making in Unreal? Is there anything we could check out? Okay, so thinking we're gonna need a struct particle to represent our particles, and we are going to need a particle type. So we can have empty as 0, so that'll be its default, and then we'll have soil, grass, soil and water for now, and then we'll build on top of that. Is Rider also good for Unity? I mean, leaves it in Unreal and didn't know what else goes with Unity. Yep, yeah. It has like native integrations and everything. It's same with like all the IntelliJ and JetBrains stuff. It's very slow to get going, but once it's up and running, it's good. It's solid. I pay the yearly subscription for it, and I think it's definitely worth it. So how big do we want this? I guess let's make that configurable. I guess you're working in C++ then. I guess, like, does Rider have any use if you're using blueprints? I'm guessing not. It's a VTuber project, so I'm doing a full VR VTubing setup with an AI pet that's sentient rather than hard-coded. Cool. Yeah, that sounds interesting. So like when you say that the pet's sentient, does that mean it's kind of like reacting to the like VTuber? Is that the idea? Persistent, and yeah, we should clear the memory. Okay, and then we're also going to need a compute buffer. Let's call that buffer. And that'll let us pass the data to the GPU, because we're going to write a shader in a minute to render all this. This dot particles dot length and size of particle. Structured. Okay, cool. So we have data. We need this static int size. We'll go. So all we're doing right now, guys, is we are setting up some data structures to contain our kind of particle simulation, and then we'll generate a random grid to start. We'll create a shader to render that grid, and then we'll get going. Rider can scan blueprints and show you where you use C++ functions and blueprints, but that works kind of bad. Are you using it for that, or are you writing C++? So whenever we're passing data in a buffer from C# to the shader, we need to know the size of that data, and it needs to match up perfectly. So I always find this kind of messy, but you need to basically, like, you need to have some way to know the size of the struct, and so you basically have to like add up all the properties inside of it. So if we had like public int whatever, public bool else, there's public bool something else, then we basically need some way to add this all up. So you do like size of int plus size of something else, thing else, and yada yada yada. And I always find this really messy. So if anyone has a better solution for that, I would love to hear it, but that's how I always do it. Yes and no. It's so he does his own thing rather than being locked to the player. Sleep, eat, play, climb, knocks me out. Cool. That sounds fun. So he kind of like has his own little behaviors and kind of runs around the bottom of the screen, I guess. That's neat. We were talking a bit about this yesterday, about like VTubers and stuff like that. It's something I'm like so out of the loop on, but I think it's kind of fascinating. I'm not particularly like planning to become a VTuber or anything like that. I just think it's interesting. People have like some really creative ideas with that. Okay, so what we're gonna do for now is we're just gonna randomly fill our particle buffer. I less than particles plus plus. Particle dot soil particle. Actually, you know what? Let's do it like this. 0.3. So if we do it as an int, we can just cast that. Cool. So now we have a grid of particles. We can define the size of it, and we can pass this into a shader, and we can render it, and then we can start actually, you know, implementing all this. Wow, it's so fascinating to watch someone program, just watching things that I don't understand, but eventually something comes out of it. Well, if you have any questions, I'm very, very happy to answer any questions. But yeah, I appreciate you watching along anyway. I write mostly in C++, but I use blueprints also. The feature is just not really usable though, or at least I don't find a good use for it yet. Oh, that's too bad. I can imagine, see, like that's always my kind of issue with node-based tools like shader graph and stuff. I'm kind of opening up to using shader graph a little bit more because it does have a few advantages, but I just find node-based code just like doesn't work with my brain. I find code just like much easier to reason about. And I always find like little nitpicks and stuff whenever I use any of these node-based tools. Not on the bottom of the screen around the UE5 environment, so we can eventually go to sleep in another room. Oh, cool. Interesting. That's neat. All right. Next thing we're going to need is a... What are we going to want here? We're going to want a... Why is this public? We're going to want a renderer. Actually, let's just do... We'll go straight to the material. So we're going to eventually need to update this buffer. So I'll just put this in the update loop already. But what we're going to do is this buffer dot set data. Yes. Set data to particles. Yep, that makes sense because we know the length and the size, so it's got enough space. We'll set that on the buffer, and then material dot set buffer. Let's call it particles. Stop buffer. So this will pass it into our material, and then we can write our shader and receive all this data and render it, and then we can get going. So let's go ahead and create our shader. A real live, thank God I'm not the only one up right now coding. Where are you based? Is it really late for you? I'm in Scotland, so it's like 11:30 in the morning. Very reasonable time to be writing code. Yeah, in order to get just a little comfortable with writing in blueprints, I learned like 15 hotkeys and made a manual for myself on how I should use it so it wouldn't bite me later. Yeah, it's a good shout. I feel like I'm not super experienced with Unreal. I've played around with it a little bit, but I feel like you got to kind of lean into the blueprints at least a little bit, and it definitely has like some advantages. I feel like if you're completely opposed to using any kind of blueprints, then you're probably gonna run into some issues. I'll need to send a video because he found the stash of coffee and had the spinnies. Cool. Morning, sir. Morning, Nixie. Am I pronouncing that right? 4:30 a.m., 20 hours deep. Wow, that's impressive. You've been coding for 20 hours. That's some determination. What are you working on? Stay hydrated and make sure you stretch as often as you can. Good advice. All right, let's create a shader. Let's go unlit. So this will be our falling sand shader. And actually, let's just hook this up first before I forget. Herman Miller Myra chair. Nice. It's good stuff. If you do not use blueprints for animation and UI, you are crazy. Well, Google CLI came out, so babysitting. Yo, hey Joe. Good to see you again. Falling sand. Okay, so we'll create a material out of this guy. And we will put that on this fabric. So we'll replace this for now. We'll come back to that. From Unity is great for unique styles, while great for realistic looking. Well, I'm assuming you're saying while UE is great for realistic looking with little effort. Yeah, I would totally agree. The kind of default lighting model and shading model of Unreal is very, very amenable to realism. You definitely have to fight it a lot more with Unity. Finalizing a live stream, music rate and review, submission, DJ host, automation, double. That is a lot of words. Finalizing a live stream, music rate and review, submission, DJ host. I understand all of those words. I'm trying to parse what this means taken as a whole. Live stream, music rate and review, submission. So it's a live streaming DJ and you can kind of like submit songs to it. Is that the idea? Dip one, you can strip Unreal features to achieve performance. I think that applies for Unity too. Actually, you know what? Maybe that's one thing Unity does kind of have going for it. There's, you know, a default scene. Is there much you need to strip out? Actually, yeah, there is kind of a few things. Yeah, I think that applies. Okay, so let's clean up this this default shader here. Let's go attributes, varyings. We need to switch this to HLSL, and HLSL, attributes. Don't care about fog. So yeah, so just to recap on this, we're going to pass the buffer into this, the buffer that we just randomly generated. We're going to pass into this, and then we're going to render it. And then once we can render it, we can then start tweaking it and actually generating our falling sand. To be honest, Unreal games run better on my PC for some reason. Like I tried Sons of Forest, then went for UE open world times. I get more FPS out of the box. Interesting. I have definitely not heard that before. I know Unreal 5 is kind of known to be a little bit of a hog, but I think 4 was a bit more reasonable. But it's also, I think, you know, I really don't think it's up to the engine. It's up to the development team, how much work they put into optimization. Yes, host review your music for musician and DJs. They critique and review your music. Charge like 5 to 50 submission working on. Oh, cool. So you're actually like, is this for, this is a service for musicians and DJs. So they're submitting like custom original songs and then the service will provide feedback on that. That's the idea. Lumen, virtual shadow maps, switch character movement component on pawn movement if you don't use its features, and you triple the performance of your game. Doesn't Lumen have, I mean, are you saying to disable Lumen? Because doesn't Lumen have like an insane overhead? One thing I really wish Unity had, and I've kind of considered rolling my own a few times, is cache shadow maps. So if you have a whole bunch of static geometry, it's still rendering the shadows every frame, which is so wasteful, and it's doing that for every light. I think that's probably like the lowest hanging fruit that I see in URP to get a bit more performance out of it. Yeah, disable it. Yeah. Cool. All right. Still cleaning this up. So we need to include, what is it? Packages, Unity, com.unity.render pipeline, universal, shader library, common. I'm sure it's common, or maybe this is core. There it is. Okay, look. And so we can pass in, what we're going to pass in is our structured buffer of particles. We'll call that particles. And this needs to match the structure of this exactly. So this will be an int particle type. And we'll have some more stuff soon. But for now, that should give us enough. This needs to be transform object to hpos. Where is this defined? That's it. From my experience, UE5 seriously is greedy on usage, even for a tiny project with 2 actors like mine. Hogs a lot of performance. Yeah, that's what I've heard. It's kind of out of the box. There's a lot of stuff you need to strip out. I think that's what Joe and Earl are saying above. Tested, and to simplify your struct size, you could use marshal.size of type of, but only works if you're looking for padded values. So struct with only a bool, return 4, not 1. I think that's fine. And I think that's actually a requirement on... I think that's fine. And we're going to be using instant floats anyways, which are all going to be values of 4 anyway. So let's give that a shot. Let's go marshal size of... Let's try that. And as a reminder, every time that there's an error, we're donating £2 to charity. So yep, if this goes wrong, it's going to cost me £2. Not sure what Unity or shader expects. Yeah, I think values of 4 is the kind of norm anyways. Lumen only benefits you if you use emissive materials for lighting, nanites, and changed your pipeline to work with said things, which in itself is a pretty big thing. It seems like it's kind of like you have to kind of commit to that, right? It's not something you just like turn on and suddenly your game's beautiful. But that also kind of has the... And I'm completely speaking out of my ass here because, again, I do not use Unreal, so I'm completely out of my depth. But if that's the case, then it also has the negative of, like, you can't just make it a toggle in the settings to turn that off because your whole game is kind of like... Your art direction is kind of like, you know, built around that. That's my understanding anyways. It sounds like that's what you're saying. Twitch, YouTube Tick, live hosts like you, but they got no time to collect money, find the emails, playing the music, keep track, give feedback while 80 people are chatting. Retention, it's a lot of app. Yeah, that makes sense. This is for the DJ service, right? It's cool. That sounds interesting. So are you doing what are you creating, like a REST API or like a UI on top of it, like a web layer or something? Or is it like a Twitch YouTube integration, or how does that work? Thanks for the follow, Scottish Phoenix. Appreciate it. Rider GOAT. I agree. Rider is GOAT. It's a little expensive, but it is GOAT. Has a few issues with shaders. Like, it doesn't play super well with this. It's always a pain to get like all the imports working properly and all that. But like this is saying... We're just missing a quote. That's my own fault. Transform object to hclip, not hpos. That's it. Okay, so we have our UV map, we have our vertex. So what we can do, if we just render the UV, we should see a lovely little gradient. That'll be our little hello world here. Flow 2, yep. And actually, I don't care about that. Okay, so we should see a nice little gradient. Here we go. We need to actually fix the UV map on that though. Just want to make sure I don't open the wrong thing. There we go. Yeah, you can get benefits from just toggle on off in some rare cases, but to really get something from it, you need to commit to it. There's also megalights now, and I have no idea what icebergs it has. I have not heard of megalights. What are megalights? They sound like they might be very bright. That's like the first thing that comes to mind, but I have no idea. I'm assuming that's not what it is, just very bright lights. Okay, so we just want this to be exactly that, and then this should be the left. So this should be the left. Let's sync that up. Nope. We want to project from view. Okay. So that should give us a very nice little gradient here. There we go. Just how quickly you can code stuff. For me, it's quite hard. Oftentimes I open code and don't know how to approach a problem and stumble a lot when writing. Do you also encounter this? To be honest, not so much anymore. Definitely more so in my early career. So before getting into games, I was a software developer for like 12, 13 years, and I also went to school for it and everything. So like, you know, I've got experience. And yeah, I do still like, you know, when I started learning graphics programming a couple years ago, it was kind of the same thing. It was kind of like you don't know what you don't know, and you just kind of like open your editor and you're like, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know what word to even Google. Like you're kind of so out of your depth. But I think if you just kind of like stick with it, give it time, it kind of you start to notice like patterns in different problems that you encounter, and you learn the techniques and the tools to try to approach those, and you get better at it. It's like any other discipline, right? Like your toolbox starts to grow over time and you just get more comfortable with it, and that's how it is. So for code, I don't really have that issue so much anymore. Knock on wood, I'm probably gonna bite my tongue later when I come up against something and I don't know how to solve it. But I definitely get that with like art. You know, Blender is something that I'm still learning. I've been using it for like 5 years and I still constantly don't know what I'm doing in it. I feel like I'm using like 1% of Blender. So yeah, I think with games, it's just like, you know, there's a lot of disciplines that you need to kind of master. So it's very normal to feel that way. I think the key is just to like not get overwhelmed, you know, just understand it's part of the process. It is a system that should allow you to use around 3,000 to 4,000 of dynamic lights at the same time. Ooh, with shadows. Wow. At least Epic said so. From a couple of small tests, it does improve performance though. Interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm assuming there's probably a tech demo or something I can check out. I'm curious how that's working, but that sounds cool. What game jam is this for? Or is it for a fun jam? I like both. This is for a game jam. This is for the Games for the Wanes jam. It's a small little games jam, but they're raising money here in Scotland for the Glasgow Children's Hospital. So what we're going to do today is we're going to, every time I make a mistake, every time there's like a compile error or a runtime error, we're going to donate two pounds to the charity. And throughout the 60 days, we're going to see if we can find more ways to kind of make the streams a bit more interesting and, you know, raise some money for them. So here's the jam page if you guys want to get involved in it. And hopefully, does that show up in YouTube as well? Yeah, it does. Cool. Yeah, so you can check that out if you guys want to get involved. It started in June. I just started yesterday, and it's running to the end of August. So it's pretty much like the whole summer, and yeah, it should be fun. Greetings! I just finished recording too. Nice. What were you recording? Submission through web app to DB to player into OBS, with now playing layover, legal semantics suck. Yeah, the legalities of anything to do with music is always a huge pain. Built a badass HUD with MIDI board for admin, finally cleared license dependencies, so this is it. Cool. Nice one. What's the tech stack on that? Like what's the back end? What's the front end? LED lights, I have an app laid out for RGBIC through WLED. Cool. Raft. I love recording games. Raft is such one. Raft is exactly the kind of game I dreamed of as a kid. But then now that it actually exists, I've never played it. I feel like it's like exactly what I wanted my whole life growing up, what I dreamed of video games would one day be. Now that it exists, I just have never actually checked it out, but it looks so much fun. I need to check it out sometime. How long are you programming? You look young, LOL. Thank you. Maybe in my early career and have to struggle for a while. So I'm 34, I'm gonna be 35 this year. Like I said, I was working for like 12 years in like tech startups. If you want to learn how to code and you want to learn fast, startups are definitely the way to go. And yeah, I was a tech lead for like the last 5 years. That I started leading teams of engineers and getting more into like the architecture and all that kind of stuff. So I have a lot of, I guess depending on who you ask, I have a lot of experience programming. That's definitely like my bread and butter, and I love writing code and I love solving technical problems and overcomplicating things. Um, so yeah, depends how you look at it, but yeah, I've got some experience. Yes, I finally made a smelter. Nice. Got bitten by a shark today. Things you don't normally hear. I got bitten by a shark today, haha, but I survived through the bite, so that's okay. Cool. Nice. I'm glad to hear it. So is Raft multiplayer, or is it like you're like in your own little sandbox? And will YouTube allow me to send links? That's a good question. I actually don't know. We can try and find out. We'll find out together. Give it a shot. I'm not going to ban you or anything. I don't know if YouTube will allow it. It's multiplayer co-op. Cool. Nice. That sounds fun. Multiplayer and single player. For you to buy, play single player on Raft. Very cool. I love hoarding games. Raft looks like a great hoarding game. It does. It does. Okay, so okay. So for those who don't know, those who maybe haven't worked with shaders before, UVs are a very, very important concept to understand. This looks like absolutely nothing, like a weird little hodgepodge of color, but it's actually really important. So what we're doing here is we are graphing essentially this object in UV space, so we can kind of project something onto it, like a texture, or in this case, we're going to project our grid on top of it. So if I just give you guys a quick demo, so if we just look at the X value, we're going to see a gradient that goes from left to right. Sorry, my camera's backwards. It goes from left to right on the red channel. So that'll go from essentially black to red. And if we've got this all set up properly, we should see black to red. Cool. And then if we do the y-axis, we should see a vertical black to red. So we know essentially if we're plotting this like a graph, then down here somewhere is 0, 0, up here somewhere is 1, 1, and now we can project something onto that. And that will be our structured buffer of particles, which is going to be essentially a grid of particles. So let's get into that next. If you have storage boxes, otherwise you'll get really frustrated when your pockets get full. First link is docs for how to use megalights. Second one is 4-minute tech demo showcase. It actually allowed me to send links. I don't see the links though. I'll be back once I finish my Wolf Quest video of the day. Bye. Cool. Enjoy. Earl, I don't see those links anywhere. Are you able to maybe just break it up so I can copy and paste it? Next.js, JSON-DB, and Clerk Security. I have to finalize the looks. My graphics is strong suit. I got 19 apps that play off this missing. 19 apps that play off this missing from DIY indie, so plan on not being a coder. Fair enough. React, can't forget that. Classic. Classic. Yeah, just delete the HTTP part. Hopefully that comes through. Interesting that you can see it, but I can't. I guess it's just kind of like shadow blocked it. Okay. What are we doing? So, okay, so we have our grid of particles, randomly assigning a type to each of them. Pass that in, so now let's render it. So what we need to do, here's where I'm going to start making some mistakes, and we're going to start raising some money for charity. Okay, so we have our particle grid, and now what we need to do is we need to take that UV space and convert it into our kind of grid space so that we know for each pixel which particle we are rendering. So let's get going. So int UV to particle space. Put to UV. So what is this? I always mess this stuff up. So this is going to be uv.x times, we need the width and the height here. Can't spell. We need that, so let's pass that in. Okay, so that'll be the x-axis times width plus uv.y times height, uv.x times width. I think I'm completely wrong on this. I think it's... Just trying to reason about this. Earl, those links still didn't come through. Maybe YouTube's too smart. If you tell me what to Google, I will Google it. Oh wait, I just remembered I haven't done my Farewell North video of the day yet. I think I'll do that one first. Computer lags so bad on Farewell North for some reason on the ending. Oh, I'm sorry. It is probably one of the more intensive parts of the game, but I'm sorry to hear that. That's annoying. So one thing I'll say, 100,000 limit on CLI is nice for one thing. Getting our code loaded up, drive DL, Gemini, Debs pref, and I don't know what any of that means. I've never used Gemini or any of those things. I'm completely out of loop on that. I'll just send it in the Discord. Cool, that works. I wonder how you're gonna handle circular play area. This is something I'm not sure about either. First simple thing that comes to mind is fill out circles area with bedrock. Easy but less performant maybe. Yeah, I think we can kind of just mask that out and see how the performance is, and then maybe at some point try to create a more accurate circular grid. We'll figure that out. But I think for now, maybe we'll just, do something like what you're saying, just like make it bedrock or something solid and not render it. But cost, you will not get this perk again. It's 3 days old. I'm not sure what that means. Let me check the Discord. Yeah, Earl, if you want to just post that in the general chat or something. Sorry, AI compute, good for grunt work. Fair enough. It's not my cup of tea, but no shade. Okay. So we're UV to particle space, so we can get the particle in theory. Particle equals this dot UV to particle. Not this. UV to particle space. I dot UV. And of course, I want to do this. Particles. Okay, so here is where I think we are going to get our first donation, because I think I'm making a mistake here. But what we can do is we want to know the particle type. And for now, we'll just do a little switch on that. Actually, you know what? I don't want to do that. Here's what I want to do. We're going to create a second struct, and this is going to be, I don't know, shader data. And this is going to have a color, and we're just going to control all of this from the C# side. So this, we are going to do shader data. So basically we're going to have two arrays. One is going to be data that needs to be sent to the GPU, and the other data doesn't need to, because I think we're going to have a lot of data that doesn't need to get sent. And we'll do start particles, length, and this will become size of shader data. And that's fine for now. And what we'll do, new shader data. It's not random. New color, random.range, 0, 1. And we're going to pass in shader data instead. Post it, for some reason sent it to DMs first. That's all right. Cool, let's check this out. It's my computer, NVIDIA 1650 ain't no good. Yeah, I have actually, on the computer that I developed Feral North on was a 1650, and it was a nightmare when I needed to record stuff for the trailer, especially when I was recording stuff in 4K. It was very, very painful.
When we look at where to take Unreal Engine in the future, we start with the user.
Something new to discover.
Before we get into the details of megalights, I first wanted to talk about this environment. Built using a suite of brand
Okay, see
new
you, Fern.
assets from the Quixel Mega
Have fun. Thanks for doing that.
We've also partnered with Kitbash 3D. They're an awesome resource for 3D models and materials. You can soon find many of these assets on our new Fab Asset Marketplace if you want to use them in your own projects. And a whole new tool in the Creator's Toolkit is huge, but that's not the only way Megalights makes things better. Let's see what's next.
Yeah, I want to know how this works. This is really cool. What UE5 can do now is scary. Yeah, it is. It's crazy.
So it looks like Echo has found herself in quite an interesting marketplace here.
The light shafts and all that. Very pretty.
Let's turn on some of these shop fronts and see what's for sale.
Wow.
There's something missing though.
At first I was like, okay, they've got all these light bulbs here, but that could just be like emissives. That's not necessarily that impressive.
Let's turn on some of.
Wow, that's really cool. Are you solo or with a Sony or anyone?
Flickering oil lamps, string lights.
So I had a publisher for my last game, and I worked with a few people, like I had a composer, voice actors, and all that. But it's kind of just me working, full time, day to day on it. For the second project, I'm probably not working with a publisher. I've been talking to a PR agency that I'll probably work with instead, and I will be working with like a composer and voice actors and all that again. But again, it'll be kind of just me working, full time on it. For this project, of course, this game jam, just me. Yeah, won't be hiring anyone for the game jam.
All these animated drones and robots, over 1,000 individual. Continue on. It's worth mentioning. Now, whether you're using textured areas,
this is really impressive.
Megalights is included.
Very, very cool. One thing that's cool in Unity, I haven't quite worked it out yet, is the adaptive pro volumes. So it's not nearly as cool as this, but it does allow you to blend seamlessly between different baked lighting scenarios. So you could have like a day, an afternoon, and a night scenario. You bake all three of those like offline, and then in the game you can kind of seamlessly transition between them. It's kind of nice, and some people have worked out some cool stuff you can do with like volumetric lighting, where you sample the adaptive pro volumes all throughout the environment and do some cool stuff with that. But yeah, this is far beyond any of that. Very, very cool. And what was the other thing? And the docs. Cool. I'll go through this offline. But yeah, I'm really curious to know how this actually works, if they explain that. Like under the hood, I mean, like what is it using? Very, very cool. Thanks for sharing that. That's nice. I like creating lighting effects and shadows. Me too. That stuff's really fun. Really, really fun. Okay. Nope, this should be buffer. And we want to set that to shader data. Okay, so we have now, this is now color. Oh, of course. Flip for color. And yeah, so we should be able to, instead of this, do just particle.color. Okay, one more look at this. So UV to particle space. So if we have a UV, so if that's 0, 0, it'll be 0 times height, 0 plus 0. So, okay, that's fine. We end up with the int is 0. If we have the UV, say 0.25, 0.25, we're going to get 100 plus 100, so 200. That is not correct. Oh, I'm going to mess this up. Okay, here's going to be the first fail. Cool. There's our first mistake. Did you find publisher not that important and useful, or are there other reason for just PR agency? I made a video on this recently. You can check my my YouTube channel after the stream. But I made a video about this recently. I think, it's just nothing against the publisher I worked with. I think I learned a lot from that experience. And there's value in having a publisher, but I think the first time you have a publisher is more valuable than subsequent times you have it. And because I did the console ports myself, because I did a lot of the marketing and all that myself, I feel like I learned enough that I don't really need that support again. Feral North is a really big game, and I'm trying not to make a game that big again. But yeah, check the video. There's a lot more I go into on that, like the way I think about risk and how I think publishers are kind of a tool to offset risk. So if you're making a game that you think is quite risky, then it might make sense to take on a publisher. If you're making a game that you think is more, reasonable and you can afford to take that risk on yourself, keep more of the what do you call it, the revenue downstream, then I think it makes sense to do that. But yeah, check the video. It goes into a little bit more nuance about that. Okay, so this is our first mistake, and it's a simple compiler error. What am I doing? Oh, there we go. Actually, you know what? We can't... This needs to be a float 3. This can't be a color. So float 3. And we're not going to have any alpha. So that's fine. Let's give that a go. Error number 2. So for those of you just joining the stream, we're doing a game jam here that's that's raising money for the Glasgow Children's Hospital. It's the Games for the Wains charity. And what we're doing to make the stream interesting is every time we make a mistake, whether it's a compiler error or there's like a runtime error, so an exception is thrown, we're going to donate £2 to charity. So at the end of the stream, we'll add it all up and see how much we've raised. But yeah, cool. Thanks. I watched the video but forgot. I will rewatch it later. Cool. Sounds good. And this needs to be 4, 1. Cool. Now, UV to particle space. So UV.y, why is this so hard for me to figure out? We need to take... I don't know why I always struggle with these simple grid calculations. We're going to have to do a whole bunch of them. So I think I'm going to be making a lot of mistakes with this. So UV.y times height. Why did I do that? UV.y times height. Sorry, just checking that Twitch is still running here. UV.y times height. So that's not correct. What we want is we're trying to find the index in the grid based on the current UV. So we have a value from 0 to 1. We have 400 times 400 particles, and we want to know which particle corresponds to the current. So we need to do UV times height will give us the what is this even doing? I'm having a complete brain fart here, guys. UV.y times height. Okay, we're going to Google. Someone's surely done this before. UV to grid position. It's like basic math, but I never I always get stuck on these silly grid things. That's not what I want. Okay, let's just think this through. Actually, let's go backwards. So if I wanted to get the particle space, sorry, the UV from particle space. Dope composer on Twitch, Patrick Belfort. If you ever need a game composer, he's the best engineer for game composition I know, and I know a lot of musicians. Actually, I have an incredible composer I worked with for my last game that I'm already working with for my next game, but I appreciate the recommendation. Hey Kyle, how's the progress? Hey Gopher, how's it going? We're getting into the nuts and bolts today, so we're actually kind of working on some of the implementation here. So we've generated a grid of just random colors, and we're writing a shader to then render that grid. And then what we can do is we're going to do a falling sand simulation where we're going to create our embroidered environments through kind of falling blocks, falling particles, with like a little basic physics simulation. So I think it'll be cool, but we're just got to get that kind of basic implementation going. Okay, particle space to UV. So what that would be is we would take the particle index, let's say. And Gopher, we're currently struggling on very, very basic arithmetic. Turns out this stuff is confusing when you have a bunch of people looking over your shoulder. Okay, so given a single index in our array of particles, we want to calculate the UV from that. So this would be, what would this be? This would be turn particle index, so float to particle index divided by width. That would give us the x, right? So if we have particle index 401, so if the input is 401, the output should equal width of 1, height of 1, or x1, y1. If the input is 450, oh wait, no, sorry, that's still like grid space. So this should be 1 over, should be 0.01. Why can't I think this through? I mean, to convert that to UV space. Guys, why can I not think this through? This is such simple arithmetic, but I just cannot get my brain to work it out. Yes, please backseat code me. I feel like I am completely having a complete brain meltdown at the moment. So this would be the grid pause is 1, 1. We need to convert that to UV space. And then in this case, the grid pause would be 150. Then we need to convert that to UV space. So basically, I guess we just normalize that over 1, right? Or over the width of the, what do you call it? And then this would be 1 over 400, 50 over 400. Or more accurately, like width and height. Okay, so let's give that a go. So hey there, it's been a while. Hey, Pretty Frenchman. Yeah, it has been a while. It's been a long time. What are you making? I will give you an overview in just a second. I also feel dumb now. I'm completely having a complete mental breakdown. I don't understand why this is so complicated. So what we're doing a game jam here. The Games for the Waynes game jam, which is raising money for the Glasgow Children's Hospital. What we're doing is we're creating a game very much inspired by this art on Twitter, Taylor Brooker. Definitely check out her stuff. She creates these incredible landscape embroidery pieces, and I find them just absolutely stunning. So what I want to do is I want to create a game where we use a falling sand simulation, which is basically like we spawn a bunch of particles at the top of the screen and they fall and we can, kind of interact with them and stuff. They fall into place, and we create these environments from it. And we do that with like the raw materials. So like you'll have like water, soil, grass, whatever. And then based on like the quantity of particles in a given area, we'll have things start to spawn, like trees and birds and, all that kind of stuff. So that'll create like a cool little embroidery piece. But the goal is to then be able to kind of transition into that environment and like walk around and look around and see in fully 3D kind of what you created. So today we're just on day 2. We're working on this little falling sand simulation to kind of start creating these pieces, and we'll go from there. And every time I make a mistake, which I'm currently making a bunch, we're going to donate £2 to the charity, which is again to the Glasgow Children's Hospital. I'm not even sure what we're doing, to be honest. Never coded in Unity. Fair enough. I would have helped if I didn't pay attention to the code because I'm sorting YouTube subscriptions right now. Okay, so to summarize the problem. So we have an array of particles. This is our grid, right? So we have 400 by 400 particles in a one-dimensional grid. Given a specific UV space, so a value from 0 to 1, which represents where on the canvas we are. So like bottom left is 0, 0, bottom or top right is 1, 1. This would be 0.5, 0.5, and so on and so forth. We need to figure out which index of the grid we're on, essentially. So what we can do, okay, thinking about this, let's think about this. Okay, so we have a UV. This is a value from like, if this is like 0.5, 0.5, then the kind of grid position is 200, 200, because we have width of 400, height of 400. And then the index equals 200 times 400 plus 200. Is that right? So it'd be v.x times width plus ev.y times height. Zero 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 5 200. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Super creative. That's going to blow people's mind. Art on art. Hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully. I don't know how much we're going to be able to get of this in 60 days, because I'm only working on this on stream and I'm only streaming a couple hours a day. But yeah, if we can pull it off, that'd be really cool. Normally x is index modulo width and y is floor index over height. Normally x is index modulus width and y is floor index over width. So that gives us the grid position, and then we need to convert that to a single index. So I think that would be this. I think. Yeah, Demetrio, that's exactly what we're trying to get. Index is y y times width plus x. Y times width plus x. Y times width. You're right. Y times width plus, yeah, we don't need times height. No, we do. Sorry. Let's work through it. Okay, so 0.5, 0.5. So 0.5 times width, 200 plus 0.5. So if this is 0.5 times width, we're going to get 200 plus, again, 200. So that's 400. So you're right, that's not correct. What we want is actually, what is this? $200 times 400. So if we do, So Kuko, going back to yours, so normally x is index modulus width, but we don't know the index yet. So that's what we're trying to figure out, is what the index actually is. So we want... that was assuming index increments along rows and wraps to the next column. Yeah, so it would be like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I did my Farewell North video and completely got lost on the race back to the docks. Still beat Kaylee though. Nice. You need to multiply width by uv.y and multiply it by height. So uv.y times width times height times width times height. Ooh. And then add uv.x times width. Guys, I'm like completely failing to reason about any of this, so I'm going to take your word for it, but let's try and make sense of this. Okay, so uv.y is uv.y is, let's actually use an example that's not even. So let's do 0.25, 0.5. So this would be 0.5 times 400 times 400 plus 0.25 times 400. So this is 200 times 400 plus 100. This is 80, 100. So that seems reasonable. This was if it was 0.25, 0.5. That seems reasonable. X times width plus y times height times width. Yes, yes. X times width plus... Yes, okay, yeah, it's the same thing. Okay, let's give that a go. If not, you guys owe me £2. Requires a buffer. This is not an error, it's just a warning. Requires a buffer SRV. Oh, we need to target 5.0. Nope. Okay, I'm going to count this as an error. There might be an error with 1.1. So if this is, so first, let's do that. Wouldn't that give you a 3D grid? There might be an error with 1.1. I'm trusting you guys here, but you might be right. I might pull up, just because I feel like I've been floundering on this for long enough, I might pull up an old reference. Because I might go out of borders of the array. So if we did 1.1, that would be 1 times 400 times 400 plus 1 times 400. So basically, yeah, you're right. We've gone beyond the bounds because the length of the array is 400 by 400. So I'm not the only one struggling with this. Simple 2D grid index should just be width times y plus x. Right, but I struggle with these things like all the time. I just feel dumb when I'm working on games. Nerdchomp, first of all, thanks for tuning in. I don't know what it is. I can never ever work out these simple grid operations. I just find them completely mind-melting. Who is Kaylee's father in Farewell North? We never actually explore that in the story of Farewell North. It's something I never really wrote. I just kind of left that blank. He could be around, he could not be around, he could be living or gone. I just never wrote that. It wasn't kind of part of the story I was trying to tell. Yeah. Okay, Kuko, going back to yours. So simple should be just width times y plus x. But in order to get y, right, we need, so let's maybe spell this out a little bit more. So uv.y, this is a normalized value from 0 to 1. So in order to get the actual y, it would be uv.y times height, right? In order to get the x, it'd be uv.x times width. So that's to denormalize it. So now we actually have like an index value. So this will be like, you know, Using our example up here. So y equals 100. X equals 100. I don't know why I'm doing these backwards. Y equals 200. And now it's going to be, you're right, uv.y times width, 200 times 400 plus x. Right, but then we have the issue with the bounds where UV's 1, 1. So now x equals 400, y equals 400. So we have, oh, this is not uv.y, this is just y. So y times 400. So 400 times 400 plus. But yeah, how does that make sense? Because now we've exceeded the bounds. We can't go past 400 by 400 because that's the actual length of the array. So something's still not right. I do prefer node-based and code-based, even though node-based gets messy. It can become a work of art. That's one way to look at it. I cannot make sense of node-based code. I mean, I'm failing to make sense of this at the moment, but node-based stuff, I just completely lose track of everything. Maybe x. Oh, you might be right. You might be right. Dimitro, I think you might have it. So if uv is 0, 0, the end result should be 0, obviously. But what will we actually get? So 0 times 0, 0, yep. So that's fine. If uv is 0.1, so what should we actually get in this case? If it's 0.25, so we get maybe x equals uv.x times width minus 1. Maybe so why are we doing times width? Why is this not, shouldn't this not be x actually? Because we move up the number of I guess Kaylee Smaller is a bit of a ghost then. Yeah, essentially. Shadergraph 2 will be good. Been said, hope it's not overpromised. I actually didn't even know there was a Shadergraph 2 coming. What's changing with it? Width is the point where it wraps to the next y. Width is the point where it wraps. X is the point where it wraps to the next y. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. So if y is, let's go back to this example. So if y is 200, it's 200 times width, it's 200 times 400, plus 100. Let's just give it a go. Let's see where we're at. Oh yeah, we still have this. Requires a buffer, SRV, but not provide. Oh, exam run. Okay, so we're getting something here. So let's make a little bit more sense of this. Rather than random numbers, let's try and recreate the UV. My fiance's name is Kaylee, and she looks over every time you say her name. My bad. It's weird now, actually, when I meet people named Kaylee in real life. I find it very, very strange. Says your width is 401, math ain't mathin'. I feel like we probably have a mistake in here, but I want to try and make sense of it. I think the previous approach was correct. I just don't know how to correctly handle the last particle. U equals 1 corresponds to the pixel at width minus 1, the last pixel column, and V equals 1 corresponds to the pixel at height minus 1. Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly right. So if UV is 0, 0, that's index 0, and if UV is 1, 1, then it's the last element of the array. Exactly. So, okay, let's try and make a little bit more sense of this and actually reconstruct. Let's actually reconstruct the UV so that we fill the array with the colors of a traditional UV map, and see if we're rendering it correctly. So at 0, 0, we should have black, and at 1, 1, we should have like R equals 1, G equals 1, and then we'll just make this 0. So for this, we now need the opposite calculation. So given an index, we want the grid position. I never heard of this calculation, electric engineer. I'm like curious. I feel like this is like one of those things that comes up every few months, and every few months it has completely left my brain. Teacher, have you played Feral North? Just curious. Question from Gopher. Okay, so what we want is private static. We're going to be using this in burst later, so we'll make these all static and prepare for that. Private static void, or sorry, private static float 2. This will be called particle index to UV int index. And this is going to be... Thank you for the follow, yeah. Thank you for the follow, Kuko. Appreciate it, guys. The one downside to UE5 and the node-based system is there's no documentation on how to make a sentient pet AI that can commit war crimes. It seems like a weird omission. I don't know why they would be missing that from the documentation. I feel like we need to add -1 to the result since array index starts from 0. But the problem with it, then 0, 0 will return -1. I need to leave you for 15 minutes, so I hope you'll solve it. Okay, hopefully in 15 minutes. That's our goal. We're going to have this solved by the time Earl comes back. Localcs are not my forte, dyslexia, and 1s and 0s not nice to us. Fair enough. Okay, so UV equals particle index to UV, and our index is just I, and then we could do UV.x, UV.y. Okay, so given an index, we need to deconstruct, we essentially do the opposite of what we just did. So this should be floor of oh, I know. Using static stop math. Floor index over to pass the tight. That's not right. So we want, this should be modulo. And then this is divided by width. So x is the modulo width index, or y is index over width. That will give us, this will not be normalized. So this is actually not to UV, this is to like grid space. And then private static load 2, let's do grid space to UV space. This is an int. This is why I can't stream. I can't handle the crippling pressure of getting stuck on something in front of everyone. I know. And when you're streaming, things are 10 times more difficult than when you're not. The imposter syndrome really kicks up a notch when you're live. Is it like puzzle-based? Because I don't like puzzles, unfortunately. For Farewell North, it's somewhere between like a walking sim and a light puzzle game. It's like, it's not difficult. It's not intended to be difficult. It's more of like an emotional, narrative-driven experience. That was the goal with it anyway. Oh, guys, we are making a mess of this today. Okay, so grid space to UV space, and then inside of that, particle index to grid space. Okay, so if we take index over width, so index is, let's say 401. This would give us 1, yeah, which is what we want. What is the issue here? Oh, of course. We don't need that. If it has UA localization and the game is based. Yeah, Gopher did a lot of the Ukrainian translation, so huge thanks to Gopher for that. At least it's not a hex grid. Yeah, you could say that again. Okay, so that looks like it should be right. So index 401 modulus 400 is 1. 401 divided by 400, also 1. But this should be... Yeah, that's fine. And then to convert that to UV space, we need to normalize it. So all we're doing here is returning grid space divided by width height. That should do it there. And okay, so if this works, we should see a nice little UV map. Are there any games you're looking forward to? Yeah, one that came up yesterday is I Am Ripper. Looks really, really cool. What else do I have a whole bunch of stuff on my wish list. I can't think of anything else right now. But hey, look, there we go. We got a nice UV map. So I think that's working. Okay, so we are populating the grid properly. We are rendering the grid properly. Let's start actually filling the grid out. Actually, let's make this like nice and chunky. Let's see here. So if we did width of 50 and 50, we now start to see the grid. Let's make it even smaller. It's 10 by 10. Cool. Yeah, now we're getting some nice chunks. Cool, cool, cool. Just bragging that. Absolutely fair enough, Gopher. You guys did a ton of work and you were so diligent about it. I really appreciate it. Like you guys actually put a ton of effort into that, and making sure that the translations were, you know, not just like done, but like done with intention. So I really, really appreciate it. Oh man, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I live in Estonia and miss Ukrainian a lot. Nothing wrong with bragging. Yeah, absolutely. Huge thanks to Gopher. I'm waiting on Sword of the Sea. Oh, it's a new game from, it's not that game company. It's Giant Squid, right? That game looks cool. The day the base part of the V2 programming project should complete. Cool. Wow, Blender is so much nicer. Okay, so we're rendering this grid. Now let's populate it. So let's get rid of this. Actually, let's do one more test. So let's get rid of this for the moment. And let's do... So if I is equal to... Let's just pick a random cell. So if I is 5. So this should be on the first row. Since we're doing 10, 10, it should be like basically the middle of the first row. We'll do red. Otherwise, we'll do black. So we should see one red square just in the middle here. Cool. Nice. We have a little bit of like a rounding issue, but oh, that's just because we're doing 10, 10. That's fine. Yeah, from the art director from Journey. Also, Blender sucks. 3DX Max is superior. Starting fights in the chat. Yeah, I haven't loved any of the games as much as Journey. Journey is like an all-time favorite for me. Like that's just like a virtually perfect game. But I did enjoy what's the underwater one? Drawing a blank on the name. I really didn't like Sky. A lot of people recommended that to me when I was early in Farewell North because the art direction is kind of similar. The game is beautiful. They did an incredible job with it, far better than what I've done. But I just couldn't get into it. And then what's the Giant Squid did the underwater one? I can't remember the name of it. I enjoyed it, not quite as much as Journey. And then there was also the Falcon one. Abzu, that's it. Yeah. Abzu was really cool. And I love scuba diving. To me, scuba diving is like the greatest thing in the world. So it should be like right up my alley. But Abzu was like an 8 out of 10 for me. It just didn't quite capture the same I don't know, magic that Journey did. And then the Falcon one, I can't even remember the name of. I didn't love it. Flow is different. There's also Flower, which is really cool. Obviously, that was inspiration for Farewell North. Flower game with the whole like restoring color. That was a really cool game. Flow. I think that's something different. Oh no, yeah, that was one of theirs, wasn't it? Oh no, it was an indie game. Oh, that game company. Yeah. So it is part of theirs. Sky Children Light is nice, but they took ages to bring it to Steam PC. So I played it a little bit on mobile, but I never really got past the first area. It just didn't really click for me. I didn't love all like the noise of it, you know. And I don't mean like the sound design. I mean there's just kind of like stuff everywhere. I didn't really love that. Journey is my top 10 for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Journey's an amazing experience, and I go back to it every once in a while. Every few months, or not every few months, every year or so, I would say I play it again. And every time I, find some little detail or some little, I don't know, special little moment. And yeah, it's so cool. It's an amazing game. Thanks for the follow, Nixie. Okay, so we have a grid. Now we need to be able to draw on the grid. So I think to start with, let's just be able to click a square and change its color. So to start, we're just going to initialize everything. Let's get rid of all this random. Everything's going to be initialized to empty. And let's start defining some colors. So empty will just be like color.clear. Actually, I guess we're not doing alpha. Color.white. Soil color will be color. Do that for now. Journey's amazing, and I hope Sort of Sea is on par since it looks stunning. Yeah, it feels like it's got that vibe. It's all about like movement and yeah, it feels like it's got that vibe. I really hope they kind of capture a similar kind of spirit. I love how Journey handles multiplayer. 100% agree. You feel so attached to the strangers you run into. Every time I finish, so at the end of the Journey, you get like a little summary of like all the players that you played with, and every time I am convinced that I played with one person, and there's always like it's like 2 or 3 because people get disconnected or they stop playing or whatever. But you definitely get this like this attachment to this silent partner that you're on this journey with, and it's a really unique the way that they did that. And I think I watched a documentary on this ages ago where Sony really wanted them to put like gamer tags and do all that kind of integration, and they really pushed back on it. And I think it was absolutely the right call. The way the multiplayer works, where you just have this like silent partner and you can just chirp at each other, super cool. You could add a Crackit out to the ocean, lol, crawling onto land. I'm heading out, but got to see how this ends. We'll have to be back. Learn new code every day. Cool. Thank you for joining. We're going to be at this every day at the same time for the next 60 days or so. So yeah, hope you tune back in. Sort of Sea and Kibu would probably topping my excitement list. Kibu. Yeah, that's from the developer of Omno, and I loved Omno. It was really cool. I met him, the developer, at Gamescom a couple years ago. I was at Indie Arena booth, and he came by and played like an early version of Feral North. We got to chatting, and I was like starstruck meeting him because I loved Omno so much. Y'all got a great source here for knowledge. Great job. Bye all. Yep. Have a great day. Hopefully see you on the future streams. Okay, so let's do this. So we're going to, for now, just kind of click on a cell and be able to turn it to water, let's say. So let's go into a little update loop here. So we need to get the mouse position. What is that new input system? Mouse.current.position. This is not the position I want it to be though. What is this? Let's just debug log that just to get a sense of what this actually is. Okay, so that's a normalized, no, it's not normalized. It is in pixel space. Okay, and then we can use that to do a raycast. There's something called, actually, we'll do a raycast. So we're gonna raycast from the camera to our one collider, which is the canvas that we're drawing on. If we have a hit, then we'll change whatever's in that pixel to water, and we should see that get updated in the rendering. And if there's no hit, then we do nothing. So let's get a reference to the collider. That'll be a mesh collider. Let's grab that. Do we solve the UV? We solved the UV. That was just the motivation we needed, Earl. Thank you for that. Journey, stay being number 1, and Ghost Runner. Number 1 and 2 are my top 4. What is stay? I've not heard of that. Must help a kidnapped man escape captivity in real time. While you sleep, he is alone. When you return to your PC, he has hope. Your encouragement and device will be the difference between his salvation or despair. Interesting. It's a cool premise. I might have to check this out. Oh, Stray. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely familiar with Stray. This sounds interesting. Mixed reviews, but sounds like it could be cool. Stray didn't 100% land for me. I enjoyed it. It didn't 100% land for me though. I think I'm just kind of a little bit put off by like cyberpunk kind of environments. It's just never really been my thing. So let's grab a reference to that. So we should be able to, I believe, we should be able to raycast to this collider and get the UV of where we hit. So let's get rid of all this. In fact, we don't need any of this. So if I hit play now, we should just get a black screen. It was actually, I just left it exactly as you saw it, Earl. It was exactly that. And then we did the opposite in C# land. So being able to go back from, we're not using it anymore. We were using it before and we will use it again, but being able to go back from an index to UV just to prove that it was actually correct. And we were able to reconstruct the UV and it all worked out. So the solution was exactly what you saw before. Not saying we won't run into an issue with that later, but I think for now it all checks out. Okay, yeah, so we're getting a black screen. That's exactly what we want. Now let's do our raycast. So we need to know where the camera's at. Camera equals camera.main. So we're going to do physics.raycast. Oh no, we can do, I think we can raycast just to a specific collider. I don't think there will be. Because you have to remember that uv.x and uv.y are normalized. So if they come in as 1, 1, this becomes 400, assuming a 400 by 400 grid. This becomes 400. And then it's 400 plus 400 times 400 plus. You might be right. There might still be something there. There might still be an issue there. 400 times 400, and then we return 400 times 400 plus 400, which is wrong. We've exceeded that by 400. You might be right. You might be right. But we're going to pretend we didn't see that for a minute, and we're going to press on until it comes back to bite us in the butt. Just about Federal North, thanks for the localization. Thank you so much, Dimitro. I really appreciate that. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know how you get on for sure. But yeah, it's definitely meant to be like kind of like a slower, more emotional, atmospheric adventure. So just go into that with that kind of like mindset, and I think you should enjoy. It's like an entire additional row. Yeah, it is. It's kind of a big problem. But I feel like I've spent too much time thinking about this one little thing. I'm going to have a think about it off stream, and then hopefully tomorrow at the beginning of the stream, I've solved it. But I feel like my brain is just completely turned to mush being on stream, and I can't reason about it. And I want to get a little bit further today. Okay, so raycast. Yes, cool. So new ray. So we're going to go from the camera transform forward. Sorry, this dot camera dot. What am I doing? We want to do Unity mouse raycast. There's a function for this to convert the mouse position to screen position. Unity mouse raise from the camera. Cast array from a camera. Screen point, that's what I want. Screen point to ray. Trains array going from camera through a screen point. And I'm assuming a screen point is in pixel space. If we do, I have an hour before physical training, so I'm gonna lab it now. Okay, let me know how you get on with that. Ignore it until it becomes a problem later. The game jam philosophy, exactly. That's the way we're gonna roll here. Maybe height -1 is a simple fix. The problem is that'll just shift the problem down onto the first row where we're going to be in negative numbers. It's so gloomy in the UK today. One moment's too hot, the next it's raining. Here it's been very gloomy. We did have a thunderstorm warning, but I haven't heard anything yet. We've had a few thunderstorm warnings lately. Okay, ray. What else do we want here? Out, raycast hit. Okay, if we get that, what I want to do is I want to debug log the hit.uv. Hit dot lightmap chord. No, texture chord. So this should, if the mouse is over our canvas, we should get a normalized value of where the mouse is actually touching. Let's give that a go. Yes, okay, so down here somewhere, we're getting close to 0, 0. We can't get to 0, 0 because that's off the collider, so that's fine. Here should be like 0.5, 0.5. Yep, that's exactly what we're getting. And that should be getting close to 1, 1. Cool, okay. So we can touch the canvas collider, and then if we are touching it, what we want to do is we want to do exactly the same thing, where we're going to private static int UV to particle index. So we can get the int particle index equals UV to particle index, hit dot texture chord, and we'll pass in the width. Very random question, but have you ever tried making a game with a horse in it? I have not, no. I think making a game with a four-legged character, especially as like the main character, was very, very challenging, and I think that's something I'm definitely going to avoid going forward. I think game engines and everything is very much optimized towards two-legged characters. When you get with when you have four legs, things get really, really complicated, and it caused me a ton of issues. So it's definitely something I'm kind of looking to avoid for the foreseeable future. Dimitri, you're welcome. If you like to come say hi in the FN Discord, yeah, absolutely. You guys can find a link down below for the Discord, on YouTube anyway. And on Twitch, there's the link. Okay, so int width, int height, times width. So here's where we're going to start finding out if we have some out of bounds issues. And Earl, I'm almost certain that you're right. But we're on a time crunch. We're just going to pretend like we don't have an issue. Let's do this. Can I do... just cast it. Okay, so we'll get that particle and we'll set the particle's type to water. And then we'll update to the color. We have to convert this to a float 3. So if we've got our mouse over the canvas, we should start seeing some little blue squares appearing. That sounds hard. All I know about HTML encoding is how to do bold, italic, centerline with text. Yeah, I mean, you're like halfway there. It's just a few steps between that and making a game. Okay, cool. Yeah, that seems to be working. So we can fill this all in. Something just jumped. Something's jumping around. Let's see if we can debug that. Something definitely jumped. Aha. So why did that happen? Why did that happen? I think we're like overflowing at the top, and I think it's we have to solve this issue. No more brushing it under the rug. Okay, UV to particle index. So if we have a UV, UV times height or times width. It's back to this old problem. $45.5. This should be 100, 200. We should be just doing the inverse of this, right? Going from grid space to UV space, and then particle index to grid space. We should just be basically doing both those steps in the opposite order. Right? So we already have this, which is the UV. So then what if we do... X is equal to... I don't know what it is. My brain just completely shuts down as soon as I get to this. Like I cannot make heads or tails of it. By half, you mean 0.01% of the way? Yeah, fair enough. I never attempt to make a game anyways, it would drive me crazy, and I have no idea how to start. I'm much harder playing them on beta. Honestly, good shout. Playing games is the right way to go. Making games is a descent into madness, as we're currently witnessing. Okay, while I once again rack my head on this, what are some other YouTubers you guys watch? Like non-game dev YouTubers. I want to know like your like non-game dev, non-gaming. Who are some like completely random YouTubers you guys follow? And don't say like Mr. Beast. I mean like some niche ones. I want to know like kind of some cool hobbies or cool you know, off the beaten track channels. Have you ever heard of Woolcrest? No, I haven't. What is that? Let's maybe use some smaller numbers. So let's imagine that width equals 10, height equals 10. Just reason, yeah, let's just reason about this. SROS, I'm a total basketball nerd. Cool. I don't really know the first thing about basketball. So what does SROS do? Is it like talking about like the latest kind of happenings in basketball, or is it like analyzing games, or what do they do? It's Amazing Wolf Simulator where you raise a pack in Yellowstone. Ah, cool. Wolf Quest. Neat. Oh, wow. 9,000 overwhelmingly positive. Cool. Ellie and Mitchell at Disney Vlogs. Cool. Very cool. Physics for the Birds. Is that like physics tutorials? Disney Vlogs, very cool. Serpa Design, he built some pretty aquariums, terrariums. Ah, very cool. I think I may have watched his stuff before. He was the main inspiration for me in getting an aquarium for myself. Very cool, very jealous, very cool. Guide Dogs UK is the only channel I'm subscribed to that isn't to do with games. Cool. Man, people who train guide dogs, that's just so cool. That's an amazing pursuit. Posey has cool random videos, lately has LEDs, light, etc. Posey. Channel about anything. Neat. Very cool. Crufts. I'm not familiar. Crufts is the greatest dog event in the world. Oh, cool. Okay, so it's like agility, performances, and stuff like that. Very cool. Not only physics, maths too, some puzzles, interesting stuff. Nice. Pretty much anything NBA related, analytics, news, coverage, 2K gaming. Cool. So you're like you're really into it, keeping up to date on all the latest basketball news. Posey is a great one. Cool. These I have not heard of like any of these channels, so this is really cool. Gives you some stuff to check out. All right, enough procrastinating, guys. It is time to solve this. UV to particle index. This is very basic maths. We, as a group, I am convinced we can put our heads together and we can solve this. Okay, given a normalized value from 0 to 1, we need to convert that into a single index. So if we assume that our width is 10 and our height is 10, and we have a UV of 0.25 and 5, we should get 4 and 5, and then we would convert that to 45. 4 times width plus plus 5. 45. Right? Do we solve it? And then if that's UV is 1, 1, we would get 10, 10. 10 times... Sorry. Oh yeah, this is where we're getting running to the issue. 10 times 10 plus 10, which is wrong. That is wrong. Serpa is great. Another like that is Ferret Wonderland. Ferret Wonderland sounds like a channel I should be following. Super cool. I have a terrarium behind me that is not anywhere near as impressive as any of these, but I love all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna check some of these out. Boile Hobby Time, build some really cool dioramas. Ooh, these are neat. These are very, very cool. Were any of you guys into Warhammer? Or currently are into Warhammer? I loved Warhammer as a kid, but I kind of fell off on it. It's a very expensive hobby, especially when you're a child with no income. Procrastinating by watching Kyle procrastinate. Fair enough, fair enough. What if we only have a single brain cell? Who gets to use it? That is a good question. I think I'm going to take control of the brain cell. I've been struggling in front of all of you for long enough on this very simple issue. So yeah, if you go lend me your brain cell. Is it not x plus y times height? X plus y times height. Let's give that a go. X plus y times height. So that would be x, so 4 plus 5 times 10 in this case. And that would give us 4 plus 50, 54. But then we still have the issue here where we get to 10 plus 10 times 10, 110. But if our width and height is that, this needs to be capped to 100. Shouldn't it be index 0? Yes. Yeah. So if the UV is 0, then we get 0, 0. 0 plus 0 times 10, 0. So we are handling the lower bound properly, but for some reason we're going over on the upper bound. I quite like putting on DIY videos in the background sometimes. Yeah, me too. It's very satisfying. Like 3D printing or furniture making. Nice. Played Lord of the Rings Warhammer. I didn't even know that was a thing. That's very cool. That sounds very, very cool. Oh, no, I'm stupid. You're correct there. Look, I'm the one who's been publicly struggling for... How long are we going? 2 hours? 2 hours to solve this very, very, very basic little piece of mathematics. So if anyone's stupid here, I think it's me today. I just literally cannot reason about this for some reason or another. I'm gonna Google it. You know what? We've wasted enough time. X plus height minus 1. X plus height minus 1. Let's give it a go. Okay, so x equals 4, y equals 5 in this case. Then what we're going to do is 4 plus 10 minus 1 times 10 equals 4 plus 49. That doesn't feel right. UV01 is also wrong. Yeah, I think we've all closed our brain today, Joe. I think that is what I'm learning from this stream. Okay, let's lock in. Let's get this done. Okay, UV to grid positions. Surely someone has done this before. Actually, you know what? Let's just do it simpler. We know how to go from UV to grid position. So grid position to grid index. We're giving up and we're Googling very, very basic maths. Row times columns plus column. Row, so x times width. Sorry, y times width plus, I can't even think. X times width plus y times height minus 1. It was working, but we know that there's an issue and we kind of just pretended that it wasn't there. It's on the upper bounds, we're exceeding the length of the array. We're going too far. So if we do like UV11 or UV01 or UV10, we exceed the bounds. So it was working because the shader doesn't like crash. It doesn't crash when we run it, but we do know there's some issues here. Like, oh, this is gonna. One sec. When we run this, if I'm dragging at the top of the, it should be only drawing basically where we have the cursor, but it's like wrapping around, which is also weird. It should actually be going like index out of bounds. So I think we're just completely wrong on this calculation. I suspect 90% of Farewell North development was Kyle just quietly sitting in the room for hours and trying to solve UV coordinates. Yeah, that's not completely incorrect. There's a lot of that for sure. Like I said, every time I ever deal with grid coordinates, I'm just like, my brain shuts down. And it's such basic math, but for some reason I can't figure it out. But thankfully I'm not the only one, so I don't have to be too embarrassed. Okay, we're Googling it. Here we go. So index equals, given the location and size of the cell. Okay. So return. So hang on. Row, row is y, so y times columns is width plus x. Y times width plus x, that's what we're already doing. That's exactly what we're already doing. Let's do something here. Let's just do this. Let's log the texture coordinate and the particle index and see if we can reason about it. Yeah, you probably need to check if the x and y are in bounds, or you can get out of bounds values producing. So that's the weird thing, is we're not getting out of bounds. So I think the calculation is just actually flat out wrong, because we should be getting out of bounds exceptions, and we're not seeing that. Haven't took math classes in about 7 years now. Yeah, it's been a minute for me too. I think I made it uv.x times width minus 1 plus uv.y times height minus 1 times width. Let's try it in just a second. Real quick, I want to just get these debug logs and see if it makes any sense. Do you have a dog? Yes, I do. Curious, since your first game was about one. Yes, I have a... 1 second. I have a chihuahua named Beans. She's 15, and yeah, believe it or not, she was definitely an inspiration for the Border Collie in Farewell North, for Chesley. I'm just losing her head here. But obviously she's a little bit smaller. Have you considered consulting the Forbidden Arts? No, I haven't. I would much rather just struggle on this for a long time. Is this the Kyle Banks, the man who made the beloved Feral North game? Yes, that's me. I don't know if I deserve the, but yes, I made Feral North. For example, if the width is 10, then 3.1 gives index 13, but so would 13.0, even though x is outside the grid width. Yes, that's true. That's true. So we know for sure that we do have normalized inputs, so we're not going outside the bounds. So we can see there in the logs, if I'm all the way on the right, we're getting x is 0.99, y is 0.56. On the left, 0.02, 0.53. So we are staying within the bounds. We're just not mapping it to an index correctly. Log values to console, check stuff that way. Yeah, the old-fashioned debugging. I think he's Michael Jordan. I do not have any basketball skills or acting skills. So cute, amazing, being such a cutie. Yeah, she's the best. She's the best. Like I said, she's like 15. She's super sleepy right now. Normally she sleeps on my desk. But just when I'm streaming, I keep her in her bed. Yeah, she's like a wild little dog, and she's amazing. My dog wouldn't stay as still as that. She used to be a lot, like, she's getting a bit older. She's slowing down a little bit. But she used to be very, very wild and had a hard time staying still. Try drawing Pac-Man. See, like, we're mapping these pixels. Some of them are right. Other ones are just, like, completely wrong. There's my attempt at Pac-Man. You were an inspiration for me during my master's final project. Ah, cool. I think the is deserved. Well, I'll take it. I appreciate that. What was your master's final project? I'm very, very curious. That's super cool. Is the thing behind a rectangular grid with 0, 0 being the top left corner cannot be seen? So 0, 0 is the bottom left corner, and yeah, we can't see it. So you can imagine like this square. So 0, 0, 1. This 0.5, yada yada. My audio is cutting out. Does this help? Is that any better? Only giving the people what they want. Hopefully the audio is okay. Might have just been because this is running at an infinite frame rate. Can you try to draw a spaniel? Let's see. How's that? There's my best attempt. Ignore these ones at the top. Stream is dying. Let's see. Is it better when the game's not running? It's better now? Okay, so I think it's just because the game's running at an infinite frame rate. Let's try doing something here. I looked at how games can help with mental health issues focused on depression and anxiety. Oh, cool. Did a much more basic color restoration effect than yours, but I was glad it worked. Oh, that's so cool. I would love to see that if you're comfortable sharing. You don't have to share it publicly. You could share it just like on Discord or something. But I'd love to see that if you're up for sharing it. That sounds really interesting. Mental health was definitely like a big focus in like the story of Feral North and how pets can kind of like, you know, play a role in improving our mental well-being. So that's really cool. I love when people like kind of have that come across. He was like Optimus Banks. It's better now. Okay. Yeah, it sounds like hopefully. Okay, so let's give that another. My dog is an English Springer Spaniel. Great drawing. Cool. I'm glad. You can hang that portrait up on your wall if you like it. Hopefully it was a good, accurate representation of your dog. Okay, so I'm going to run this again. Let me know if the audio starts cutting out again, though. Maybe use Microsoft Paint to do some mock-up on how the thing works. Yeah, let's do it. Is the audio okay right now? Can anyone confirm? Audio's good, audio's bad. Can you not hear me? I'm happy to share a link to my project before I didn't share it here. You're very welcome to share it here. I don't think links will post though. I think all good this time. Audio's fine right now. Cool. Thanks guys. I think the stream might be a little bit delayed, unfortunately. But yeah, you're free to share the link here. I think the auto mod might bounce it though. So you might have to mess around with like not having HTTP break up the link or something like that. You know what I mean? Make it look like it's not a link. But give it a go and let me know if that works. Assuming you're comfortable with me pulling it up on stream. If you're absolutely not, it's no harm done. Okay, so quick whiteboard session. So here's the problem, the very basic maths problem that collectively all 51 of us cannot solve. Okay, we have a grid. Actually, we have a grid. Sorry, my dog is on my desk, so I cannot use my full desk space. So this is kind of difficult to draw. There we go. We have a grid. Right? This is a bit of an abstract, but bear with me. We have a grid. Okay, so we know that this, if we were to flatten this into a 2D, a one-dimensional array, the index of this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 14, and so on, right? The problem is, given a UV coordinate, which is going to be in the range of 0.1, 0.1, okay, so it's a normalized coordinate, we need to solve what the index is that points to. So if it was 0, 0, it's at the bottom left, and it's this guy. If it's 1, 1, it's at the top right, and it's this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 by 5. So this would be 24, right? Because it's a 5 by 5 grid. Does that make sense? And if it's 0.5, it would be this guy, so it'd be 12, etc. So we need to work out the formula for that. You should sell this drawing on the internet. My beautiful grid or my beautiful Cocker Spaniel that I drew before. As you guys can see, I am, art is my passion. This is what I like to do. It's like Unity stock graph. Yeah, it kind of is, isn't it? So this is very, very basic arithmetic, and for some reason we are struggling with it. But I think we're close. We are close. Beautiful grid. Thank you. Thank you very much. This was a kind of combined effort from me and Beans, who's resting her head on my keyboard right now. Okay. Let's reason through this again. And you know what? Because we've been struggling on this for so long, I'm counting this as we've made some mistakes. All right? Because something's not working. By the way, just a reminder for those who maybe joined late or don't know what we're doing. So we're doing a game jam game here. So this game jam is going to run until the end of August. It's for Games for the Wains, which is a organization that's raising money for the Glasgow Children's Hospital. For today's stream and probably some future ones, we're going to try and find ways to basically bleed me dry and raise some money for charity. So every time I make a mistake today, whether that's a compiler error or just some sort of mistake, we're tallying them up, and I'm going to donate £2 per mistake to Games for the Wanes at the end of the stream. Denormalize the UV chords into actual chords, so multiply the UV by 5 first. Yep, so that's what we're doing here. So we denormalize. So let's work through another example. So assuming width equals 5, height equals 5, we denormalize. So assuming UV equals, I don't know, let's do 0.1, 0.5. Okay, so here we get let's do easier math. 0.2. So this would be x is 1, y is 2.5. Let's just floor that to 2. So we have 1, 2, and then we're going to do 2 times width is 5, so 2 times 5 plus 1, so 11. Does that make sense? So let's go back to our beautiful little grid here. So if we're doing 0.2, that gives us the x is on the first column. 0.5, so we get 1, 2, 1, 2. So we should get 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or sorry, 6. Should get 6. Well, we're not going to get that. We're going to get 11. When you made the change before, did you change it in the shader too? We haven't actually changed anything. We've just been messing around, but the actual logic is still in sync between the two. I have that problem so often. Whenever I dare let Zeb on the sofa when I'm recording, he puts his head on my computer keys and kills my wolf. Yeah, Beans, she lives on my keyboard most of the day, and she's currently taking up most of my desk. Let's go. You're doing the charity jam. What's the theme? The theme is... What is the theme? Let's remind ourselves. The theme is what matters to me. So my first thought on that was nature and creating little mementos, and so that's why we're doing this kind of embroidery idea, and hopefully we can kind of incorporate a little bit of story into it to kind of tie that to the theme a little bit more, where you're kind of creating these embroidered kind of moments of memories that are important to you. Y minus 1 times width plus x. I've done this a couple of times because I learned to put arrays in arrays. Let's give it a go. Okay. Y minus 1 times width. Y minus 1 times width plus x. Let's reason about that. So y minus 1 in this case would give us 1 times 5. This gives us 6, so that's correct. If the UV is 0, 0, we get 0, 0, 0 minus 1 times 5 plus 1. So we're out of bounds on the lower end. We have normalization wrong. Converting 2D to 1D we have right. We have normalization wrong. How do we have normalization wrong? iLox, welcome back. You should get 11 and not 6. You're starting from 0, so y equals 2 is... Oh! You're right. Let's go back to that. Yeah, so this would get 11. And you're right. So if x is 1 and y is 2, then we're up here. And yeah, that's 11. Good shout. Thanks, I'm Banana. 11. Yep. Yeah. Cool. Since Wicked, good luck with getting it done. Thank you. How's it going? iLox, you've missed so much. Not really. You've pretty much just missed us struggling on this very basic math problem for 2 hours. I'm embarrassing myself, in front of 40 or so people, which is always nice. Okay, so yeah, so you're right. I'm Banana. You're absolutely right. That should be 11. So we did have it correct there. Where we're struggling though is on the upper bounds, where if we have UV11, we are going to get 5 times 5 plus 1, so 26. But the limit is 24. So we've gone beyond the bounds of the array. Sorry, 30. We've gone well beyond the bounds of the array. My above message contains a link. No, links are getting stripped out. I don't know why. We're waiting for a link from someone else as well. Was it Shapey? Yeah, they're Slappy. Yeah, the links are getting stripped out. I don't know how to disable that, unfortunately. If you guys want to send a link, I guess send it to me on Discord and just let me know that you've done it. Thanks for everyone for joining the Discord as well. Potassium showed up. You having a banana? Do you need to floor here since the normalize may produce floats? Well, I mean, we're going to cast it to an int anyway, so essentially that's going to do the same thing. Or yeah, we're doing int division already. So we're doing a float divided by an int, so that's still a float, and we're casting it to an int, which is essentially a floor. So you were saying, who was it? Lonely Turtle, y-1. So in theory, if we do that, that's fine, but we're just shifting the issue to the lower bound. Just as a channel on the server, I prefer not to do DMs. No, even if you removed HTTPS, it's getting stripped out. I think it's a bit too smart. It might work on Twitch. It's just, yeah, it doesn't work on YouTube. Okay, I'm gonna pretend you guys aren't watching for a minute and see if I can solve this, because I think the pressure is getting to me. So, okay, if we have 0.5, 0.5. So 0.5, 2.5, let's get down to 2, yep. 2.5, 2, yep. Y equals 5 and x equals 5 is out of the grid. Yeah, it is. So yeah, I guess actually essentially, so it's the normalization that's wrong. So does this actually need to be normalized like that? So if UV is 2.4. Let me find my 5-year-old Python Minesweeper code and take the exact code there. Yes, please do. Please do. This was not meant to be the hard part of this project or this stream. We should have been well past this at this point. 0.99999 gives 24 correctly though, does it? So I think it's literally the exact one case. So it could be... It could be. Yeah. Can I send the link to your email? Yes, but I'm not going to pull up my email on stream. So it's something you want me to look at now. It's probably not best. Any learning source for shaders you recommend? I feel like I need some education to understand conversation going on. Yeah, shaders are an interesting thing to learn. They're a little bit of a strange learning curve. They're a bit of a strange learning curve. Oh, cool. Slappy, I want to take a look at this. Where to learn shaders? Freya Holmer, she has an amazing introduction to shaders on her YouTube channel. It's like a 4-hour long stream that kind of goes over all the, not just like the kind of like, you know, basic maths of how shaders operate, but like kind of like the common stuff, like how to get some basic lighting and all that kind of stuff going. I would definitely recommend checking out her stuff. Ace Rolla, Sebastian Lag, they have a lot of great stuff that's a little bit more advanced. So once you have the basics, you can start looking at their stuff. But I think for the basics, that Freya Holmer stream, I think it's called something like Intro to Shaders or something along those lines. I would check that out. Okay, The Light Within. The Light Within is created as part of an exploration into how video games can help mitigate symptoms of chosen mental health and illnesses. You will need to guide the main character's representation of their conscious mind Inside a dreamy landscape as you try to reunite the conscious mind with their unconscious counterpart to begin a healing process to overcome their mental health illness. I'm going to mute this just in case there's any copyright stuff. Wow, so okay, so you made like a full-on game here. Wow, very cool. I thought maybe like you did like a write-up or something. I didn't realize you did this for your masters. That's really cool. It seems very very like abstract. This is very neat. Thank you for sharing. I am gonna check this out. Removing one from width and height should be correct. Let's run through it. Okay, so 0.2 and let's assume 0.2 and 0.4. So width becomes x times 0.2 times 4. Gonna bust out the calculator for this. 0.2 times 4. So that's gonna get cast down to 0. And 0.4 times 4. Oh. 4 times 4, 1.6. That'll get cast to 1. So then we have 1 times 5 plus 0, so 5. Does that make sense? 0.2, 0.4, yeah, it does. 0, 1. If we do 1, 1, then we get 4, 4. 1 times 4 times, yep, 1 times 4, yep. 20 plus 4, 24, yes. This might be it, this might be it. I should probably reiterate that the colorization is basic. Is there a timestamp we can go to check that? I would love to have a look at that. 5x5 max grid chords should be 440 indexed. Yeah, not 55. Yes. Yeah, so if we do the -1, that gets us there. Then the max is 4 times 5 plus 4, it's 24, which seems right. Yes, that does seem right. Okay, so let's do the same thing over here, just to make sure that we stay in sync. -1. -1. Okay, we still had this popping issue though. 0.5. Oh, interesting. So the y coordinate here is 0.01. And then 0.03, 0.04, 0.5. Oh, you know what it is? I know what it is. Guys, so I think we fixed the issue, so that's great. But we've had 2 issues this whole time. So the issue is we're using the UV coordinate from the collider, from this guy here, not that guy, this guy. However, this has 2 submeshes. So when we're on the rim, we're getting a different. We're getting the UV coordinate of the rim, which is entirely different. So we just need to separate this, and then I think we're good. So if we just make this a separate mesh, so that's the canvas, and then we'll just call this like the canvas rim. Music was made by myself, so you should be safe from copyright. Oh, cool. That's impressive. Keeping safe wouldn't hurt. Legit feels bonkers. You took a look at it. Thanks for spending time to have a look. Nah, absolutely. I think it's super cool that you made that. And I'm definitely gonna have a closer look later. Okay, so now we only have one mesh here. Let's put our falling sand back on. We have our rim separated. Cool. I'm gonna count that as an error. That was a big whoopsie. I feel like the solution is really close, but I need to go to training now, so I'll continue lab it after 3 hours if you've not solved it until then. I think we've got it. Fingers crossed. Famous last words, but I think we've got it. But thanks, Earl. And yeah, enjoy your lap. Have a good time. Thanks for tuning in. So normalization should use width -1, height -1. Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what we've got now. Width -1, height -1, width -1, height -1. I didn't follow anything, but what are we calculating? We are calculating this. So given a grid, if you were to flatten that to a one-dimensional grid, you would have index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, 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 all the way up to 24, assuming it's a 5x5 grid, right? Given a UV coordinate, which is 2 values, normalized from 0 to 1, we need to know which index it is. So if you get 0, 0, then it's the first index. If you get 1, 1, it's the last index. If you got 0.5, 0.5, it's the middle index. If you got 0.2, 0.4, it's this index, and so on. So that's what we've been calculating. But we had 2 mistakes the entire time. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Guys, I think we finally got it. I think we finally got it. Let's fix that dog drawing. Oh, let's draw the dog again. Let's do it properly this time. Forget that last one. That was almost perfect. It was almost perfect. I'm not sure if it shows up in the video on itch, but the YouTube video I uploaded has timestamps currently on my phone, so a bit tricky to check. That's fair enough. One of the chapters to go to if they are visible. Let's see. Yeah, if you can give me like a timestamp or somewhere generally to go to. How long does the jam run again? How long does the jam run until again? Sorry, end of the month, end of August. So it's basically the whole summer. I had a question. How many times have you used the channel packer plugin for FN? I've used it a few times actually. So for those who don't know, iLox made a little plugin for Unity that takes multiple textures and packs them into different channels. So I can be like, I want this texture in channel channel R. I want this texture in channel G. Yada yada yada. So you can combine multiple grayscale textures into a single like RGBA texture, which is great. It's much more efficient to send to the shader. Yeah, I used it quite a few times towards the end of Feral North when I was kind of doing some texture packing. It definitely got some use. Thanks for that. Once again, it's a beautiful grid. It is. Yeah, it's a beautiful grid. Happy days. Hey, let's go. Looks grand. Yes. Okay. Okay, that feels good. Let's, what's the next step? What is the next step? Let's try and make some progress here. Get rid of all that. Okay, so what we actually want to do is now update the particles so that they move. So each particle, let's do another little diagram here. So each particle has a type, right? So we've got empty, soil, water. So obviously if it's empty, it does nothing. If it's soil, then every frame it's going to check if the slot below it is empty. And if it's empty, it's going to move there. If it's not empty, then it's going to check the slot down and right, and it's going to check the slot down and left. And if any of these are empty, it's going to move into that. If it's water, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to check down, it's going to check down to the right, it's going to check down to the left, and it's also going to check side to side. And if any of those are empty, it'll move to it. And that is basically our very, very basic gravity / physics. And then what should happen is when we place a particle, it should fall essentially to the bottom of the screen, and they should start stacking up. So that's the next goal. This is the complicated part. So considering how long it took us to do the easy part, we'll see how we get on with this. But let's start cracking on with that. So I missed the first part of the stream. What is the end game for the shader you're creating? I understand the project. I'm just wondering where this fits in that project. Oh yeah, so essentially that. So when I was prototyping this, so for those who missed yesterday's stream, I was mentioning that I prototyped this idea after Feral North. I was in like a prototyping phase. I prototyped like 6 or 7 different game ideas, and this was one of them. And I was really excited about it. What I struggled with though was what the input would be. And so at the time I was working on like a kind of path system where you'd like click a bunch of points and create a shape and it would fill in. But it was kind of boring. It was like, why don't you just use Photoshop then? It wasn't really interesting. What I want to do is kind of combine that with this falling sand implementation where you're given a spool of thread and you can like place them and they kind of like fall into place. And then it'll kind of be like a deck of cards. You're given these spools of thread one at a time, and you can kind of like create a burst of different particles, and then hopefully build up to something interesting over time. I think the chat is delayed, Ilox, because we were having those kind of like stream hitches early on, unfortunately. So I think it fell behind. I'm not sure how to get that to catch up. Awesome new drawing, thank you. Classing falling sand, yep, exactly. If you go to the villain appears to see the color taken and the villain leaves to see it restored, that'll show the basic effect. Villain appears. Villain appears, villain appears. Great idea. How do you pick what direction it'll go if the middle bottom is already filled? I think we're just going to have to do some randomization. If we do it all, if we always say like right first or left first, it'll start to feel lopsided, I think. If we randomize it and use like the current cell as the seed, I think that should work. Cool. That's the darkness appearing. Tarmac, for the water, you're having an issue there. What's the issue? This will lead to your water going either all to the right or left in case of flat ground, depending on which condition is first. So that's what I was saying. So if we randomize it based on the current cell position, I think we should be good. Cool, and then villain appears, or villain flees. Nice. Yeah, very cool. Nice one, Slappy. Very cool. I had an idea to send you the link. Triumph. I could put the link on my channel's post and at you. Sure. Let me know when you've done that. I'll go check it. This is really cool, Slappy. Well done. Okay, let's get some movement going. Falling sand, update job. And have you ever checked out Might of Merchants or Canvas of Kings? It's not quite the same thing, but the way you described your initial plan made me think of those projects. I have not. Might of Merchants. Might of Merchants. Ooh. Might of Merchants combines an economic and trading simulation with the role-playing elements in a medieval kingdom. This looks really cool. Experience a unique and leveling hand-drawn world in which you have to prove your skills as a merchant. Cool. I mean, I love the art style. This is really neat. I think for the water, you should increase a momentum/direction vector. Yeah, we can definitely do that. I think we can get more complicated, more sophisticated with it. That's a really good idea. And yeah, decrease it every time it is moving. So it's kind of like a friction, storing the direction it moved and decreasing it over time /movement. Yeah, I think we can definitely do that. I think for now, let's just get the basic kind of gravity going. And then, we'll see if we can get it a little bit more sophisticated over time. It's basic as I say, but it's hella cool. You'll take a look at it. Thank you, Kyle. Absolutely, no problem. We'll ping you on Discord members. Will you ping Discord members when you're ready for peeps to play this game? Yeah, for sure. I think we'll try to aim to have something playable maybe next week. Seems hard getting work done with the stream distraction long term. Yeah, maybe, but it's fun. I think the goal of this is the stream, not the game, to be honest. Canvas of Kings. I saw they have a demo. Maybe we'll check that out. Minimalist map making tool that focuses on randomness and auto-generated elements on user-definable and interactable paths, plots, and rooms. Yeah, this actually seems kind of like what we're trying to do. This is like more kind of like specifically drawn out. But yeah, very cool. I could definitely see the link there. Maybe we'll check out the demo in one of the streams. Should be in your YouTube notifications. One sec. Dog agility competition. Cool. I mean, this is better than I can draw. I can't draw. As you've seen, I cannot draw to save my life. If you want later on this summer, you could try my game also. Sure. Yeah, I think what we might do, because the goal of this is to kind of get back into streaming. So the game that we're making is kind of just like a tool to do that. So hopefully we make something cool, but that's not really my goal. I just kind of want to get back into the flow of things. So maybe we'll do like I know a lot of you guys are game developers. Maybe we'll do some like play my demo or play my game or review my Steam page kind of streams. I think that might be fun if we get a couple people. Maybe drop me a link or something in the Discord. And maybe if we get a few of those, we can do something like that. Okay. So what we're going to do, let's get some movement going. So we're going to do a job. We're going to create a job. We're going to schedule it in update. So var job equals new falling sands update job. And we're going to pass in some data. So we're going to give it the native array particles. This needs to be public. So that'll be particles. That'll be read write. And native array, this is shader data. And then what we're going to do is, let's start with that basic movement logic. So particle. We'll switch on the type. Now your grid beats any art piece. Smiling. Sorry, I left to do a job. It must have left my chat on the screen. LOL, take care. No worries. Have a good day. Alrighty, so let's check the type. So if it's empty, we're gonna do nothing. If it's a soil, turn, and if it's water. So if it's empty, we do nothing. If it's soil, so again, so what we want to do is we want to check if the cell below is, first of all, if it's a valid location, and whether or not it's empty, and then do the same for the bottom right, bottom left, and then we'll add some randomization. So oh, and let's burst compile this. Is a valid position. I think what we want to do is stop messing around with the index as a single value and convert this to kind of grid space. So we have this guy here. So we're going to create little helpers. Oh. Helper script. And let's pop all these guys in there. Why don't I have any? No. That's an error. There we go. And we want using static. And the goal is that all of these should be burst compatible so that we can use them in the job without losing the burst compilation. Okie doke. So let's set this up. Particles equals particles. Shader data equals this dot shader data. Sorry, one sec, guys. Where were we? Okay. Shader data. And then in here, we should be able to convert this index to an int2. It will give us like our grid space. Equals helpers dot particle index to grid space. And we're also going to need the width. So far, 14-pound donation. Yep. Not too bad. We're getting up there. Your poor dog lost his nap spot. Yeah, my wife just got home, so she's gonna want to see her when she realizes she's home. So I figured rather than have her jump all over my desk and get all excited, I might as well put her down on the ground so she can go meet her. Okay, so is valid position. So we want to take a grid pause as input and return true if the grid pause.x is greater than or equal to 0 and pause.y up. Less than width -1. Okay, so this tells us if a given target position is actually valid. And do private static pool is valid position and empty. This net particles. Oh. Oh, we need another one of these. Shoot. So we need to go from int to grid pause. And that's just this. And that is into XY width height. Gotta go bye. Thanks, Fern. Have a great day. Thanks for stopping by. Okay. Particle index grid pause to no, this is opposite. Let's grid space to particle index. Okay, so this will return true if a target position is valid, it's an actual position on the grid, and the spot is empty. So let's just quickly test this out with water, because we already actually we'll do it with soil. Soil color. So what we should see is the grid, the soil spawns, and it drops. So if is valid position and empty, and that is going to be grid pause minus into 0, 1. Okay, so if the spot below is empty, then we are going to move it. Move this particle to go from index to helpers dot. I got to get back to work, but it's been fun catching your stream. No worries. Have a great day. Thanks for stopping by. And we'll be back at this tomorrow. I think we're wrapping up pretty soon here. I just want to get this basic movement going, and then we'll return to this tomorrow. But thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Check pause. Check pause. Oh, wait, we have it. Okay, so private void move particle from into 2. So in order to do this, this dot particles I don't like I'm gonna have to pass this width and height all around. Float width, float height. Okay, so we're gonna overwrite what's there. Oh, this is ints. We're going to make this empty. So that is just a new particle. That'll be empty. And then we have to do the same for the color data, or the shader data. Equals, actually, I guess we don't need this. I'm gonna clean this up a bit in a minute, but let's just get it working. Okay. Let's overload this. Private void move int from int to int width height. Yep. This will be cleaner. Okay, so we're gonna call this dot move. And then we can simply do this from, oh, no, do it the other way around. So we don't overwrite it before we write it. Okay, so very basic. We're just replacing what's in the to with what was in the from, and yeah, that should do it. So, we need to actually schedule the job. So we're going to run this job every frame and run it for all the particles. So job.schedule. How do we do that again? Create a job. Job data.schedule. Yep. Job to complete. Why do I not have that? What am I missing here? Actually, you know what? That just reminded me we have a memory leak. Let's clean this up. Particles.dispose. Shader data.dispose. Buffer.dispose. Why do I not have a schedule function? What am I missing? Create a job. Yep. Instantiate the job. Yep. Populate the data. Job data. Dot schedule. That's an error. Ilex with the hydrate. Could be nice to have some background music in the future. So you guys tell me. I find it kind of annoying when streamers have music on because I'd rather just listen to my own music underneath the streamer. Like if I'm a viewer, not the one streaming, I would prefer to have my own music playing. But if you guys all want music, then we can look into that. That's just my personal preference. Must be non-nullable value type in order to use parameter t. Yeah. Oh, of course. It should be struct. There we go. Schedule. Yes. Okay. Schedule by ref. And we can take those kind of defaults. We don't want to complete. And then we want to grab a reference to this. Grab a job handle. Totally fair. The streamer gets to decide anyways. Yeah, that's just my personal preference. As a viewer, I just prefer to have my my choice of music. So that's my preference. But like I said, if all you guys want to have kind of a shared music, we can talk about it. Int. What do you want? Number of elements considered in a single parallel. Let's just do schedule. I don't want to mess with this. Array length. Oh, that's all I want. What is your problem? Okay, we're getting that already. Int depends on, yep. Where T is a struct, I parallel for batch. Ah, okay. Falling sand job must be convertible to unity.job.ijob in order to use this parameter T. But it is. ijob4. Oh, God. Create the job. Don't need a dependency handle. Schedule by ref. Okay, we do need a dependency channel. Schedule by ref. This is particles.length. What am I missing here? What is the problem? Struct, apply vol, yep, okay. Struct, job, ijob4. Create the job. Yep. Handle equals schedule by ref. Job.schedule by ref. Must be a value type or a generic type constrained to a struct. What are you on about? Ah. Count that as an error. Memo IT, hi. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in. Oh. There we go. 9 mistakes for the day. That honestly seems low with how long we spent on that silly grid issue. Okay, we just need to get this one sorted and then we're good to go. Ref this parameter, so that's the job, must be a value type or a generic type constrained to struct. This is a value type. It is a struct implementing ijob4. Genuinely do not know what the problem is here. Thanks for the follow. I'm Banana. Appreciate it. Well, let's just do this. I don't know why. So it needs a dependency even if we don't have one. But there is an overload that doesn't take a dependency. I just want to understand this, guys. One sec. So like, why can I not use that default? I don't understand. Anyway, that's fine for now. Okay, so we schedule the job and then we're going to move this into late update. We're going to complete the job. So we spawn our particle. We'll move this into the job as well soon because we're going to spawn more than one particle. We then run our falling sand update job, schedule it. We complete it in late update, and then we pass that data onto the shader. That should do it. That's an error. For those who are joining, this is a game that we're making for a game jam for Games for the Waynes, which is a campaign that's raising money for the Glasgow Children's Hospital. So the game jam's running until the end of August. And today what we're doing is every time I screw up and I make a mistake, so if there's a compiler error or a runtime error like you're seeing here, we're going to make a donation to Games for the Waynes at the end of the stream. So it's £2 for every error I make. So we're currently up to £20. And so we'll do that at the end, but let's figure this out in the meantime. Index 924 is out of range. Of course it is. So where have I messed up? Okay, so we pass in a grid pause, gridpause.y. Gridpause.y, yeah. Okay, particle index to grid space. So index modulus width, index divided by width. Let's do a quick test on this logic. So in awake, so if I have index, int index equals 5, and then index equals helpers dot particle index, no, grid space to particle index, and we pass that grid pause back in. So we should see 5 get logged. So it should convert it to a grid position, convert it back, and it should get the same result. Let's see if that's the case. These grid calculations are going to be the end of me. Okay, yep, 5. That's cool. And let's do, what is our, we're doing 10, 10. So let's do index 11. Should be 1, 1, and then 11. One, 1, 11. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So we're missing something here. That all makes sense. Let's try one more. So index 100. Sorry, index 99. So we should get 9999. 9999. Yep, that's fine. Let's check if that. I should have saved that error so I don't need to generate another one to debug this. Let's check if that's valid. Let's move this into our helpers. Oh, no, I don't want to do that actually. Let's just generate another error. Okay, index 693 is out of range of 100. Why are we getting 693? Move, index. Index is, oh, of course. Because that's not what we want. We want grid pause. Let's give that a go. That's another error. Wow, this is just, one sec. We're gonna have to restart Unity. You got .ilocks. We'll call that an error. No, you can't. Just me. Ignore that. All right, guys. This is it. This is gonna work. I'm losing steam here, so I just want to get this this particle moving, and then we'll finish this up tomorrow. AirCat displays. Oh. There we go. Cool, that should be better. Okay, here we go. Moment of truth. Nice. We have falling sand. Very, very basic falling sand. Let's crank this up. 400, 400, and let's only do this when the mouse is actually down. Let's do dot. It's the quickest way to do this with the new input system. Dot left button dot is pressed. Now it's cut off, it's moving and big. It should be good now, right? Yeah, should be good now. Cool, there we go. Falling sand. And it should start building up at the bottom of the screen. Nice. Cool. Let's really quickly do down left, down right. And then tomorrow we'll clean this up, move this into a function, and do water and start expanding on this. Yeah, we'll just do this messy for now. Into check down left equals just wait, guys. It's gonna look really cool. It's gonna look really, really cool. And I'm just doing this messy as we can. Tomorrow we'll add randomization and we'll do water and all that. Let's just get this going. Looks kind of smooth too, hopefully. We're not really handling frame rate, but we are locking the frame rate to 60 frames. So in theory, it's kind of smooth. Let's do actually a little bit smaller. Let's do 100 by 100. See what that looks like. Cool. Yeah, so now we can create like mounds of sand, but it's always moving to the left first because we have to add that randomization. But yeah, kind of neat. We also need to handle the circular shape of this because obviously it's falling off to the bottom here. So it should eventually start piling up. But we'll need to handle the fact that we're visualizing this in a circle, but we have a square grid. But yeah, kind of cool. Reminds you of Noida? Yeah. So Noida is kind of built on this whole premise of falling sand. But they have like, you see every pixel is physically simulated, just like us, not bad. But they have like a billion different particle types like fire and steam and oil and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And they're simulating all the different interactions between all these different types of particles. So we're not going to go quite that far, but we'll kind of do something similar where we'll have like soil and water, and then when they combine, it'll make grass, stuff like that. I think it's kind of cool, right? But yeah, I'm running out of steam, guys. It's been over 3 hours now. to get to this. So I think we'll call it there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Tomorrow we'll oh, of course I got to do that donation. Let's do that real quick. Games for the Waynes. So what is the damage today? We had 12 errors, so 24 pounds. Let me just do this so I'm not going to show you guys my credit card. 1 second. And I will show you when I'm done. But yeah, so tomorrow we'll do we will do the water. We'll do we'll combine those to make grass, and then we'll kind of see, you know, what else we can play with beyond that. So let me just do this here. 24-pound donation for Games for the Waynes. Continue, card. I will show you guys proof in a second. I'm not scamming you. Not scamming the Waynes. Which one? 3. Cool. Let me just double check that I'm still not showing you my credit card. Sorry, a lot of buttons to click here. Here we go. Please don't show my credit card. There we go. 24 pounds to the Glasgow Children's Hospital. Cool. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's also on the CPU, I believe, which is insane. Yes, this is on the CPU. It'd be really cool to do this in a compute shader, but I think we're going to run into some issues with parallelization. This isn't even running in parallel. Actually, this is running sequentially, so it's simulating one particle after another. We can do parts of this in parallel, but the main algorithm is a little bit tricky to parallelize. So this isn't the most efficient thing ever, but it's not too bad. CPUs are pretty powerful. But yeah, so 24 pounds for the charity today, which I think is really cool. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time at 11 a.m. for 11 a.m. British time, UK time, 10 a.m. European time, and absolute middle of the night for anywhere in North America. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Adios.